All right, a very good morning, everybody, from the flight deck once again. It's Captain Nabs with you here, and we are back for another leg of a Pilot's Life career here on live on Twitch, featuring Pilot's Life Chapter 2. So thank you guys all so much for tuning in and watching this morning. And as you can see, we are still working for JetBlue, in case you couldn't tell from the logos that are just emblazoned absolutely everywhere on this aircraft. And I do have to say, I've always kind of enjoyed the little tongue-in-cheek names there on all the JetBlue aircraft. This one you can see there stenciled across the nose. This aircraft's name is It's Meant to Be. Sorry, and every JetBlue aircraft has a different name stenciled across the nose of it. So I find that amusing. I enjoy that. I think it's quite a cute little gimmick, a fun little way to name your aircraft and differentiate your various aircraft. So I do enjoy it. I get a good laugh out of it. But yeah, here we are today with another episode, and today we are starting out where we finished off last time. So we're loading up the bags. We're kind of getting ready to go here. And we are in today. What are we doing today? So today we are in Tampa, and we are going all the way up to New York's LaGuardia Airport. So it's actually not a particularly long flight today. It's 879 miles just up the east coast of the U.S. Not a crazy long flight. So it's kind of nice, actually. I think this is one of the shortest flights actually in this whole season, unfortunately. I think most of the rest of the flights in this season get a little bit longer than this. But nevertheless, it's something. It's going to be a relatively quick stream for us today. I kind of wanted to do this in an evening, but it just doesn't work out for me. I was trying last week to see if I could figure out a night, but just the way my life is set up, it's not really very possible. Evenings in our house are family time. They're very busy, and the only evenings that I usually am not home or the only evenings, that I'm not busy at home doing family time is because I'm off working. I'm away in the evenings, in which case, of course, streaming is not a possibility because I'm not lugging a whole FltSim computer with me everywhere I go. So, I take the time when I can get it. I take the time when I can find it. During the day that's the time that I'm not working. During the day, during the week, is generally the time that I'm not working and that I have very few other obligations that I have to follow through on. So that's the time of day that I'm going to be doing this. But otherwise, so those of you that were with me on the last stream too, you may remember that I did have quite a few issues with performance in the last one or two streams. I noticed that the frame rate just got really choppy at certain points. I'm not sure why. I didn't really change any settings within OBS, but something obviously changed somewhere along the way. So I'm trying something different today. So if I do this, so what you can see is what you can see here as they're loading up the bags is I'm actually using a different feed for my stream here. I'm actually taking the direct full screen game feed in OBS instead of using a screen capture like I was using before. And in theory, this is supposed to be faster. It's supposed to have better performance than the screen capture. However, the side effect of that, and I didn't even realize it while I was sitting here talking, is that I no longer have the ability to put windows in front of the sim and have you see them, because I'm not actually outputting the screen. I'm just outputting the direct sim itself. So I have a second one here. So there I am for the morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome aboard. So what I have here is I have a second screen setup here that actually does the screen capture. However, I'm going to tend to turn this off whenever we actually go up flying, if I can. Certainly for the takeoffs, the landings, the other parts that tend to be low performance, and hopefully do the game capture will be better performance. Because the funny thing was that I didn't even realize the first time 2 streams ago that the performance had dropped off. Because I was flying the sim, I was watching the sim, and the sim is working very well. It's maintaining. I kind of have it capped at about 30 FPS, just because it's a pretty reasonable performance for my computer, and it kind of syncs up nicely with the 60 FPS refresh on the screen. So I have it capped normally at 30 FPS, and I was basically sticking to that 30 FPS for the most part. So I didn't even notice until I was watching part of the stream the next day that it's like, oh my gosh, like look at it, like it's like a slideshow, and I had no idea. I wasn't watching the OBS screen. The sim itself was doing fine. It was having a great frame rate. It was just OBS, the capture from the screen from the sim was not working well. So we're gonna try this. We're gonna try this differently. So this is, you won't even really notice the difference too much, hopefully, except perhaps in performance, because this is me. The only thing is that of course you won't see any screen overlay. So otherwise you won't notice the difference. So now I've switched myself to game capture mode. Again, no real difference here, but just the fact that any windows that I try to drag in front of the sim, you're not going to see. So I'm going to try to be a little bit more conscientious about that this time. Hopefully this will help alleviate our performance issues. That's my hope and my dream, anyways. We'll see how it goes. I kind of experimented with a little bit. It seemed to be better. But again, we'll see how it looks when we do the real deal, when we get the actual airplane up and flying. So they've actually started loading the airplane, as you can see, and we're just sitting here chatting. So why don't we actually get in the flight deck and start doing our job instead of just sitting here chatting away. All right, so here we are in the flight deck of the A320, and as always, we're going to be using our FS2 crew with us here. So the first thing I'm going to do before I even activate my FS2 crew is we're just going to do probably the most important job of all when you sit in the flight deck is get the batteries on and get the IRSs started. Because the IRS alignment process takes 6 or 7 minutes, and you really can't do a whole lot else until the IRSs are properly aligned. There are a few tweaks in the Fenix that I find a little odd too, and there's just a few things, but the align lights should be flashing during the alignment process. They just stay dim. They just stay off the whole time, but they should be flashing. There's a few little tweaks and weird quirks of the Fenix A320. It's overall 98% of it is a fantastic replica of the real thing, and it all reacts the way it's supposed to. It's really good, but you just get the occasional little odd thing that just seems to be, for some reason, it was missed. This is one of them. There's a few others in the FMS, different key presses you can use that have not been particularly modeled but are available. So yeah, we'll kind of keep an eye on those, but let's hop in the FMS here and just get ourselves started here. And actually, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get our first officer started. Our first officer today, I believe his name is Frederick. Let's just have a quick look-see here. His name is Freddy. Yeah, Freddy. Sorry, Freddy. So let's start setting up.
Roger.
All right. Now, to me, he's super quiet. I need to just turn up the volume, I think, on my headset here, because I could barely even hear him. And the other thing I need to, as well, not that, is just bring up my vPilot window and just make sure that you guys have the audio settings here. Output device, yes, that'll work perfectly. Thank you. You guys should hear it all. All right. First things first, let's just check up on the aircraft status here in the FMS. So we have a database that is current, 5th of October to 1st of November. Today is the 11th of October. And we're going to initialize our flight here today. So we're going from KTPA to KLGA, Tampa to LaGuardia. Our flight number today is JetBlue 48, JBU 48. And our IRS initialization, and that's just the FO testing things. So let me pull up my flight plan here really quickly here, and I have two ways of doing it. I can either pull the screen across. I can actually still use the in-panel SimBrief panel here, which is just such a simple and yet incredibly useful utility. Wow, he's got a deep voice. All right, so Tampa is at north 2758.5. by west 8232.0. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so you can see that a little more clearly. And it looks like, yeah, 2758.5 by 8232.0. If you want to be really specific about it, our airline actually prefers you just align just on the airport itself, which I always found a little bit odd because I think it induces a bit of an error, but that's the way they like to do it. So, but you can also actually go to the, if you want to double check your position, you can go to the charts. That's the other way to check your position. So let's just do that really quickly, just as a demonstration. I've already started the initialization process, but and locked it in there. Come on, minimize, thank you. But every major airport will have a list of gate positions. So it's usually under taxi charts and parking gates and coordinates. And so all the coordinates for all the various gates. So you can literally find your gate, Alpha 11. And Alpha 11 through 18 should be listed as north 2758.6 by west 8231.9. So you can actually align specifically to that, and it looks like our GPS correctly detected us there. It's a good verification just to make sure that your GPS is accurate. don't just blindly accept the GPS in the sim. It should generally be pretty accurate. There's not too much GPS spoofing going on, but just don't blindly accept it. Always criticize it, query it, say, hey, does that GPS position look correct? Check it against your flight plan. Check it against the known charted coordinates of your gate. Check it against something. All right, so that is now initializing. It's going to take about 5 or 6 more minutes here. Let's see, 4 more minutes for it to finish initializing. While Buddy goes through the walk around, we should make sure that the nav lights are on. We can also double check that the oxygen is on. Make sure the parking brake is on so the brake pins can be properly checked, and make sure that we have enough fluids for our flight. So engine oil, we've got lots of fluid there. We should have at least 9.5 plus a half quart for every half hour. Hydraulics is the other fluid that we might end up using throughout a flight. All the hydraulic reservoirs are topped up, and oxygen is right up there at 1800. Make sure you turn the oxygen on before you check that pressure level as well to make sure that there's no leaks in the system. You can also check the oxygen masks as well, and what you should see is a very minimal drop there. If and the other thing you'll see, if I do it this way here, something to look for while you're checking the oxygen masks, is if you see the regulator low pressure light come up after you've tested the oxygen masks, then that indicates that the valve did not open properly, that there's low pressure in the lines. There might be oxygen in the tank, but the valve did not open properly. So always make sure that you turn that on and you look at the oxygen indication again after you've gotten in the airplane, and that should show you that if there's low pressure in the regulator lines, then it may be that the valve is not fully opening. There we go. That's a little better, a little tiny bit lower. Other than that, there's not a whole lot else we can do for the next 2 minutes until we get that IRS aligned. We've already actually done pretty much all the boarding. The one thing we could actually do that's useful while we're waiting is we could just double check the NOTAMs for our departure here. We don't have any ATC right now, but we do have Jacksonville Center. So as soon as we get airborne, we're going to be talking to them. So let's see here. Tampa. Lots of Charlie taxiways. Closed, and I think what you're going to see here is that 1 right, 19 left is still closed. So that is still closed, so we're going to have to taxi over to 1 left, 19 right for departure. SIDS, we're not on any of those SIDS. I forget what SID we're on, but I'm pretty sure we're not on any of those SIDS. We'll double check it, but the Dormer 3 Lightning 3 Tampa 7, there are some SID amendments. That's about it. So there's not too much going on. Perfect. So that already means we've passed that waypoint. We've checked all our NOTAMs already. The other thing we can do is grab our tablet here and start just crunching some takeoff numbers here. And before we even do that, what's our takeoff runway? So just using VPound over here really quickly, and you can see the winds are 090 at 610 miles, broken at 12,000, broken at 18,000. So not really much help there. The other thing, of course, I can do is I can pull out my phone and I can check the actual real world ATIS, and we'll just go with whatever the real world ATIS says right now. So ATIS TPA, and let's see what the real world ATIS has to say here in Tampa. So departing runway 1 left, NOTAMs 19 left, 1 right closed. Very good. 29089 are on the meter. That's probably useful information to have. So let's get that in there while we're just looking at the ATIS. 2989, 2989. Lots of closed taxiways. Bird vicinity in the airport has this weather info for the Tampa area available from FSS. All right, so that's what we're going to plan on. We're going to plan departure runway 1 left from Tampa today. So 1 left. Looks like a dry runway right now. Optimal flap configuration. We don't need to force toga. Anti-ice we don't need. Packs we're going to have on. And sync our load sheet just to make it easy. Sync the live weather. Make it super easy. Is there any intersection data here for Tampa? Nope, just the full length is all we get. And so it's calculated some numbers here for us. We do have a flap 2 departure off of runway 1 left here in Tampa.
On the walk around.
All right, so we've got takeoff data. Looks like our IRSs have aligned while we're sitting here yakking away. Nav accuracy upgrade, love it. All right, GPS primary, perfect. So now we can finally initialize our ATSU and get this whole show started here. So we're trying to get off the ground in the next 15 minutes, or at least off the gate in the next 15 minutes. It never seems to happen, and this is one thing as I fly the bus. And again, I'm flying this putting a lot of my company procedures into this. One thing I will say about this company is they're very deliberate and methodical about everything, and they don't want you to skip steps. They don't want you to shortcut on stuff, and that's fine with me. Like I am happy to work for a company where, you know, we got stuff to do, but we're not going to rush you through anything. So I am happy to kind of take as much time as necessary to get stuff done. So there's the ATSU's initialized. We've already got the ATIS. We've already got the takeoff data. Let's go ahead and grab the secondary, and then we're ready to start our overhead flow. All right, so secondary flight plan uplink. So let's just have a quick look and make sure this makes sense. Tampa, Wylon, Jet, Kilo 3, VAP, Susie Q, Talon, National Delaware. That all kind of looks pretty reasonable. Ends at LaGuardia, so let's go ahead and activate that, and we'll recheck it as we get going here. All right, so AOC secondary flight plan uplink. Perfect. All right, so let's start with an overhead scan here. So no cockpit door lights. All right, IRSs are all on. Everything else is black except for we're going to turn on the recorder and test it. There we go, it's tested. Wipers are not on. Audio switching is normal. All right, we'll say first flight of the day. Let's test this stuff here. And I didn't even look down. Make sure all the lights are on. APU test. Now, the one thing I was thinking about doing today was an APU in-op scenario, MEL. However, I couldn't find ground air on the FMS tablet. And that being said, I'm also not sure how well the FS2 crew is really going to like that operation as well. So 10,300, is that sufficient fuel for this trip? Let's see here. It is planned as 10,300. Perfect. All right. And let's just have a quick look here. Anything in the center tank? Nothing in the center tank. So don't bother turning on the center tank pumps if there's no fuel in the center tanks. Now, they did have problems with back in the day with the pumps burning out in the center tank when they were just running dry continuously. So don't turn them on if there's not even any fuel in there. There's just no point.
The security and safety checks are all done. Are you good to start boarding?
Go for it.
Okay.
I think they already boarded. I think GSX already boarded anyways, but that's okay. All right, so batteries are at 0, and this is another one of those little glitches. It's a little tiny glitch. They shouldn't say 0. If the battery switches are off, it should say battery 1. It should just say off in the box. It shouldn't even say 0 volt, 0 amps. It should just say it's off. And then when you turn them back on, then you get your voltages back and your amps back. But it should just say the voltage and the amp should disappear. It should just say off in the box when the batteries are off. It's another one of those really small little glitches, and considering how much fidelity goes into the Airbus, it really kind of surprised me, some of these small little glitches. All right, just scanning through everything. Might as well think about starting the APU shortly. All right, no smoking's auto, emergency lights are armed. Start the APU now. Nothing on the maintenance panel, PA button's out. No other lights. I'm going to say it's not first flight, so we're... okay, we'll say it's first flight. We'll check the compass. All right. Constraint. I like VOR on my side. This should be at 100 all the time. Constraint. This should be 2989 as well. All right. I see no flags. Everything's in the right position. Seatbelts, no smoking. Park brake, TCAS company message. Date is correct. It's on. Accumulator pressure is a little bit low. They've run the door a couple times. So that's probably why the accumulator pressure is a little bit low. What we can do, of course, is we can try to reach out to the ramp guys, and we can just turn on that yellow pump, and that'll bring our accumulator pressure right back up there again. Just give it a couple seconds for the yellow pump to run. And there goes the accumulator pressure right back into the green arc. That's all you need. All right, APU is up and running, looking good. For now, we're going to be on Unicom. However, I think for departure, what we'll do is we'll set up the JAX frequency so we can swap it back real quick and easy. 3592. So we are going to have maybe a little bit of ATC this morning if I can get going before this guy has a chance to log off. So that'd be nice to get a little bit of ATC anyways. No yellow lights. Good, 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 good. Weather. approach. Cal 5 armed. Neutral. Field elevation of 0 for landing and auto. That's good. Status Cat 2 and up. That's fine. Thrust levers are idle. Off. Ignition levers normal. Rudder 0. Parking brakes on. That's emergency gear handle is stowed. I can do it fast and I can even say it. I just know where everything should be in the airplane even faster than I can say it. Alright, so that looks good. Quick instrument cross check. I've got one FD2, altimeter 2989 indicating 30 feet, 2989 indicating almost 40 feet, and 2989 indicating about 30 feet. And if we go to the, just to verify here, field elevation in Tampa is 26 feet. That works for me. Very much within reason. All right, and the heading, I've got, let's see here, 275. Yeah, pretty much 275. All right, so all that's cross-checked into the box to set up our flight here. So, again, back to the aircraft status page, 320-200 with a CM56-5 Bravo engines. The database is current, and performance factor, I believe I did put a performance factor on this one of +3, I believe. Fuel bias +3, so arm, put it in the change code, and then we actually can turn these fields blue so we can change them. Change the performance factor, don't change the idle factor, and then clear out the arm so we can't accidentally change it again. So +3 performance factor. Initialization, so we've got JBU, it's 48. I don't know why I can't seem to remember this flight number. Again, I can't remember the flight number more than 5 minutes. JetBlue 48 from Tampa to LaGuardia. Alternate is Washington Dulles, and that is correct. Let's see here. IRS was initialized, and we checked the coordinates. Cost index of 8, cruise flight level of 310, and we'll talk about that when we get going. And let's see here, 48.7 for the tropopause. ISO deviation of +12, that's pretty reasonable. All right, so we've got Tampa. Departure, we're planning runway 1 left. And our routing is the BAPO 1, so that was not one of the NOTAMed SIDS. Wylon transition. Insert. And then at the far end for LaGuardia, we're going to be doing, we're planning right now 22. So we'll plan the ILS 22 into LaGuardia. The arrival is the Corey 4 via PXT. Corey 4 via PXT. Alright, so ILS 22, Corey 4, PXT, that all looks good. And let's just check our routing here because I don't have a double check through the storage here. So the BAPO 1 goes as far as Wylon. After that, it's direct KJ03 Sierra, direct VAP, Quebec 87, as far as Hertz. And you can see the little in white there is very small. It's because Quebec 87 all the way to Hertz. That's a long way. There's a lot of waypoints here. Come on. There it is, Hertz. Direct hubs, direct PXT, and that's the Corey 4 right there for LaGuardia. So that's all in there. Total distance of, what does that say, 919. And my calculated distance in SimBrief, ground distance 920. Perfect. Love it. No step climbs, no use defined latitude, longitude waypoints. Bradnav. It's automatically selected the departure of the ILS for the departure runway, so we can get the centered needle as we line up. Let's see here, secondary, we're going to recopy that, and we'll put an immediate return back to Tampa, just in case anything happens on departure. I'm not expecting anything to, but I do have failures turned on, and hopefully something will fail today. So new destination after the manual leg, KTPA, and we'll just plan another ILS to 1 left. So we'll just put in ILS 1 left, and if something absolutely critical happens right after departure, we can get the aircraft set up for another arrival in 4 button presses. It's activate secondary, activate approach, APU on, and auto brake selected. So probably medium for in most cases. All right, so secondary is good. Init Bravo page. And let's see here, what's my fuel? Here's my fuel. So taxi of 200 kilos sounds very reasonable. The route reserve I always put as 0. Alternate estimating 2.1. And the final fuel, I've got 1.0 pretty much, when I round it. ZFW, and we should have numbers now. We should probably have final numbers by now, in all honesty, because they loaded the airplane quite a little while ago. So let's go ATSU, AOC, and receive messages. And we got a lot of load sheets in here, so let's go with the final load sheet we received here, revision to edition number 1. ZFW 55 point, is that 9? That is 9. Sometimes you have to kind of zoom in a little bit just to read these characters. 55.9 by, let's see here, ZFW, max ZFW 29.1, 29.1, and max takeoff weight of 26.5, and that should be synced on our takeoff data anyways, and the block fuel of 10.4 pretty much. So even though we got the APU running, we're not burning too much fuel here. Takeoff weight is looking like 66.1. And let's just check this on the tablet here. Takeoff data is crunched for 66.0. So let's just crunch that one more time here. Let's just make a slight adjustment to that and make sure it is 66.1. And then that way, for sure, we know we're good. All right, so takeoff weight, that's good. Wind component for today, the average wind is plus 37. And then we can just evaluate our planning here. So we should be 2 hours and 12 minutes, 5.6. I got 208 and 5.5. I'm not sure if it's done the recrunch. That's one other thing that kind of bugs me a little bit. When you adjust something and the aircraft in the real world is recrunching the numbers, it blanks out its calculations. So the trip time and fuel would disappear until it's finished the recrunch. So you know it's crunching it. You don't. Right now, I don't know if it's updated or not, but I guess since it's been long enough, it hasn't updated. That's as close as it's going to get. It's very much within reason. Only out by 100 kilos, about 4 minutes, and the total extra fuel 1.8. So my total extra should be alternate. Should not be alternate. That should be ATC, weather, fuel, and contingency. So I've got 0.6. That's 1. That's 1.3. I've got 1.8 of extra here for some reason. So and then 1.4, 1.5, 1.6 because no 1.4. Got a little bit more fuel than a little bit more extra fuel than I anticipated. Perhaps it has to crunch something correctly here. 2.1, 1.0. Half 10.4 is what we got. Yeah, it's in the right ballpark, but it's a little bit off. It should only be about 1, 1.3, and 1.8. So it is quite a bit over. I don't know why it's quite a bit over. It should be reasonably accurate. Let's see, 5.5. 6, 7.6, 8.6, 8.8. Yeah. It all adds up for some reason. I'm missing something over here. I don't know if it's the taxi fuel or something I'm missing here. It's actually 5.7 here on the flight plan, so that's 0.2. Yeah, okay, then it becomes a rounding error. Okay, yep, that makes sense. All right, so let's zero out the winds again. Here's another one that the real-world airplane can do. You can clear out the winds, and it just zeroes them. It shouldn't be an invalid delete. You can just clear them, and it will just put it back to 0. All right, let's get the real-world winds. Let's get the real-world performance data in there. We can probably get this out of the way. So, takeoff 1 left. We did 1 left, dry runway. Optimal flaps, no force toga, packs on, 66.1, and we come up with flaps 2, up 0.4, so 2/up 0.4. We've got a flex of 68, and we've got speeds of 51, 52, and 55. 151, 152, 155. Last but not least, thrust reduction, acceleration, engine out acceleration, all 1020. So we'll just adjust those really quickly here. 1020, 1020, and it's easier to pound this out on a real keyboard than it is to pound it out on this thing, but you do what you can. 1020, 1020, 1020. The green dot speed, we're going to pre-select that for the climb right now, so it'll go to green dot initially, and then we'll climb higher after that. 218, there's wind data uplink. Let's go back to init alpha and just check the winds are blue, blue, and blue. Perfect. Perf has been checked. Prog page. Optimals 350, we're down at 310, and we'll talk about that once we get going here, but it's weather related. I'm going to just put an immediate return here, just for reference, so we always have a distance readout. So KTPA, and you can put a runway on there, so 01 left. So we are currently 1.0 miles from 01 left, and if we need to do an immediate return, we can look at this page just to kind of get a quick bearing and distance to the airport. Max is 37, so that's not going to be an issue today, and a recheck of the drifts, and we got 0.1. Perfect. All right, I just love this building. Look, you can see people in the building. It's a three-dimensional building. It's not just flat. I love that. I just love it. Doesn't even have to be a whole lot, but it's just a hint that something's happening inside. Just sort of in the back of your eye, you can see it going on. Okay, let's see. So we've done all of that. We don't have a clearance because we don't have Miami Center or any Tampa controllers online. So we're just going to do a quick route review and then against the SID, and then we'll do a briefing here. So SID, BAPO 1 RNAV departure is the SID for the day. It's pretty straightforward, but let's just read it here. BAPO 1, radar required jets only while on transition for use by aircraft files Jackson area airports only. Well, yeah, too bad. I already filed it. Or as assigned by ATC. Well, now I know for next time. 1 left, climbed on heading 007 to 540, then heading 003 as assigned by ATC, top altitude 6,000. So 007 to 540, and then 003, or as assigned by ATC, and vectors to Finke, then on track 004, BAPO maintain 6,000, but clears the file altitude 10 minutes after departure. So then we do have on here, we can put this up as well. Let's just get this on here. You know what's going to be nice one of these days, although it won't actually cover that stuff, I'm going to get my MiniFCU. I'm kind of excited about it. It's getting into production, so it should be here before Christmas. Finke, BAPO, E-Cake, Wylon, and that's where I end the SID. That's where I get off the SID. All right, so that looks good. Yeah, so that's it for the SID. The MSA around here is 2,700 feet. Yeah. Are you ready for the departure briefing?
Go ahead.
All right, so technical status of the aircraft. There is actually an MEL today. Pack 2 has been MEL as in-op. I don't need that anymore. Pack 2 has been MEL as in-op, so we just simply have the switched off. We leave it off all day. It shouldn't impact our performance too much. We're still going to do packs on departure with the remaining pack. Yeah, as long as we don't lose the other pack, we should have no issues. So yeah, we do have a Pack 2 in-op MEL. I checked the MEL, I looked at it before we got in the airplane, and there's no additional procedure other than to make sure that button is off. So the departure today is the BAPO 1 RNAV departure out of Tampa, Florida. It's plate 20-3, and let's see here. Routing constraints, they're all as published here. The top altitude is 6,000, so we can definitely set that. 6,000 feet is set. There's no noise abatement published for Tampa. We're just going to do a noise 2 departure. And yeah, it's not a mountainous airport. Level of service is not an issue today. And engine failure, we're just going to continue straight ahead if we have an engine failure up to the MSA of at least 2,700 feet. The performance I've got in the box today for the left seat departure off runway 1 left here in Tampa with no takeoff shift, full length departure, flaps 2, up 0.4, flex of 68, 151, 152, 155, standard transition altitude of 18,000, 1020 across the bottom. The green dot speed 218 is carried forward, pre-selected for the climb. Let's see here. The current takeoff weight is 66.1, so I believe we are overweight for takeoff. So if we'd have to do an immediate return, we'll have to do the overweight takeoff checklist. And that's all I've got for my briefing. Threats for the departure today. I don't believe we got any real... no real hotspots on the taxi out, no runway crossings or anything like that. The weather's looking pretty VFR. We do have the 1 MEL with the cabin 2 pack. We got pack 1 though, so we are aware that if we lose a second pack, that it is going to be, if we lose that other pack 1, we are going to have some serious issues. Other than that, I can't think of too much else. Any questions?
No questions.
All right, I believe we're all done boarding. Those were the final numbers we put in there. So I think we can get ready to go here. So let's just take off external power. We don't need to worry about external air. And let's go ahead and trigger GSX. Thank you, Fenix to GSX. So there goes that door. For some reason, that aft cabin door is still open, and I'm not sure what's going on with that. Is there a catering truck outside? There's no catering truck.
Hello, Captain.
The door is just
We are
open.
ready for pushback.
Can someone please go and close the door? It's almost probably easier to do it this way. That's possible. I may have even triggered that when I had the tablet open, so.
Departure checks completed. Bypass pin inserted.
Alright, so I'm going to close. I'm just going to look at Navigraph charts here for the taxi out. Fairly straightforward. Go back to the south end of the apron. Juliet westbound. Take the second left, which is Whiskey, all the way down to the threshold. Pretty straightforward. I'll close my SimBrief panel there. Just leaving this up so I can give it a pushback direction momentarily. And we're just about ready to go. Let's also make sure that this is tracking. It does appear to know that my pre-flight stage FltSim's connected, so that's good. Let's do this. Before start checklist.
Parking brake.
Set.
Takeoff speeds and thrust.
V1 151, VR 152, V2 155, flex 68 degrees.
V1 145, VR 145,
Release parking brake.
V2 148, windows.
Closed.
Release
Beacon.
parking brakes.
On.
Before start checklist completed.
Alright, so then that
Release parking brakes.
reminds me of the one thing that I didn't do is I didn't actually set up the departure because it doesn't take information out of the system, so I've got to do this manually. So 151, 152,
Release parking brakes.
155, flex to 68, 31,000 is the cruise, thrust reductions at 1,000 AGL.
Release parking brakes. Release parking brakes.
Config 1, it's config 2 for departure. Thrust is reduced.
Release parking
Threats
brakes.
complacency. Good threat. Alright, there we go. Now it's all set up. And ready. Alright.
Release parking brakes.
What we're going to do is I'm going to put my feet on the brake pedals because before we do the first pushback of the day, we have to do a brake check where we push the pedals. So parking brake off,
Commencing
push the pedals.
All engines
Without
cleared.
hydraulic pressure, you should see
Start
the
at
yellow
wheel.
system come on. And then you can start the pushback. Alright, so they're ready to start the push. Here we go. On our way to LaGuardia. Goodbye, Tampa. I think we're going to come back again later in the season. We'll see this airport again. Alright, it's a little bit stuttery for me right now, so it's not just you guys. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to make sure that I switch this now to game mode. So you're not going to see any overlays. If I bring a browser window over top or something, you're not going to see it for now, but hopefully it's a lot better performance. Alright. Starting engine 2.
Okay.
Hopefully some of you guys will start watching this soon and we'll be able to get some, I realize that my monitor computer's not plugged in, which is why it turned itself off. Because I want to know how many of you guys are watching, and we will hopefully try and trigger at least one failure every day if we get enough people interested here. I want somebody tell me that you want to see a failure triggered so that I know that there's people watching at least. All right, 40%, looking good. We do have ignition. We obviously have EGT rise. We've got positive oil pressure. I heard the power change. One thing that's also kind of I find a little bit funny about the Fenix is the power changes are so quiet. In the real airplanes, the relays are in the flight deck. Oh my God, the clunk when you switch over from GPU to or APU to engine generators, it's just ridiculous. 24 to 60, all looks good. Starting engine 1.
Okay.
the noise is just, it's crazy, the clunk.
Set parking brakes.
And that's one thing Fenix kind of, it just like, oh, it's a little tiny click in the Fenix, but that's not really very accurate. All right, so we have stopped moving.
Cockpit to ground. We have a good
Front
engine
brakes are
start.
set.
You can
Front pins are
disconnect.
moved. We've got fuel flow. We do have obviously light off. We've got some oil pressure rising. Oil pressure's in the green. EGT's rising. N2's rising. And 1 is rising. Everything's rising nicely, slowly, evenly. And I'd just say, like, the CFM56, for being pretty big engines, they do start quickly. I remember flying the PMDG 47, and those engines are slow to start. Old engines. These things, they start really quite quickly, considering they're very big engines. They start almost faster than the Embraer engines. All right. That all looks good. Everything is stable.
Unlocking gear.
All the engine parameters look good. All right, engines 2 and 1 are normal. And then this is where I have to start doing flows that I'm not used to. So I'm just gonna, there goes the tug. Perfect. That's the first thing I was looking for, was to make sure that the tug is going.
Tow truck disconnected.
And let's just do my after start
Pin
flow,
removed.
because there is stuff in here that I'm just
Left
not
is
used to.
clear. Right is clear.
This is where we actually start having a whole lot of checklists in our airline that we don't seem to have here. All right, so yeah, engine mode selector normal. AP bleed off. Anti-ice is staying off for this departure. APU master is coming off. ECAM status, it's checked. Everything is as expected, and nose wheel steering disconnect memo is gone. And there's Buddy with the pin there. Thank you very much. Perfect. Love it. Thank you. And we're ready to go. Almost here. After start checklist.
Anti-ice.
Off.
ECAM status.
Checked.
Pitch trim.
Point 4 up set. Set and checked.
Rudder trim.
Neutral.
After start checklist completed.
Alright, there they go. We are good to go. Mute myself here on my FS2 crew. And away we go. Tampa traffic, JetBlue 48 is at Concourse A, taxiing for departure, runway 1 left. She's actually not too bad, 24%. She's actually rolling. That's pretty good for an Airbus. You often need to get 30-40% just to get it rolling. Once they get rolling, they're okay, but it takes a little while. But I love this terminal building and the transparency of the windows. As silly sometimes as that is, as gimmicky as that might be, it adds a feeling that there's something happening inside that building. Now, there's not a lot of detail in the building. You can see from here, you can see right through it. There's not a lot of detail there, but just the fact the windows are transparent, it no longer feels like a brick. It's no longer just a brick of a building. There's actually something to that building. There's stuff actually happens in that building. It really kind of completes the illusion, for lack of a better way of putting it. All right, we're just going to do a quick little brake check. Apply the brakes. Doesn't even have to be very heavy, but just make sure that these needles do not move. The needles down here in the corner do not move. So do it one more time. You guys can see that. Pressure 0. Clear left side.
Clear right side.
Brake check.
Pressure 0.
I really should have done that. I should have made him do that, but I was just kind of explaining it to you guys as I go here too. So I'm kind of in a mixed bag. I talk a lot, and I really shouldn't be talking a lot now. In a sterile flight deck, I should be pretty much just parking my mouth right now. Really? Gonna come right for us? Thank you. Go away. All right, here's Juliet. We're gonna make a right turn on Juliet. Threshold of 1 left's over there. I'm just trying to look here, looking at OBS off the left side. It's a little choppy. It seems like it was better than it was. Like last time, I swear it was like 2 FPS. It was the frame rate was unbelievable on departure. So I'm hoping that this is going to work better. Anyways, it's a bit of an experiment. I tried it a little bit, but it's one thing to kind of try it when you're not streaming, when you're not live. It's another thing to do it when you're live. So The one thing I will notice, though, is that it has started to rain here. So maybe we need wet numbers for departure here. So let's get our FO on that. Oh, wait, I'm the FO as well. So let's do a wet runway departure now. All right, 140. So now we've got 2 up 0.464. So we need a little more power, a little bit lower flex temp, and then this speed's changed as well. So we got 43, 51, 54. You know what? We're going to put that in when we get to the runway because I really just need to focus on taxiing here and getting all the rest of the stuff done here. So get over this bridge. We'll turn left onto Victor. Once we get the nice long straightaway, we'll do our 4 takeoff checklists. I do like a good working bridge, and I do like a slope taxiway. It's something that's not done enough. It's not perfect, okay? There's a little bit of a kind of a hump going on here, but it's... And you can see at the other end of the bridge there's a little bit of a hump going on here. Oop, whoa, 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 where are you going? Where are you going? But, so it's a little bit crazy there for a second, but just nice to have a sloped taxiway, a really truly sloped taxiway. There are little undulations in these airports, but like you go to some of these real world airports and the slopes are quite something. Certainly the change in elevation from one part of an airport to another, and it's often not well simulated in Flight Simulator. These airports, every airport is like perfectly flat as a pancake, and the fact is that in the real world most of them are not. The biggest example that I can think of that is got some huge hills and is not simulated in Flight Simulator is Atlanta. Atlanta is built on a hilltop, but the one runway goes down to a valley and then comes back up the other side. The terminal buildings are all kind of on a ridge in the middle. Like there's a lot of big slopes in Atlanta that, and I think it adds a lot to the character of the airport. As someone who's flown there multiple times, not having that in the sim really kind of takes away. You could add a lot more to the sim by having some of these things. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do flight control check.
Ready. Full up. Full down. Neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral.
Rudder.
Full left. Full right. Neutral.
Do I have anything else in my taxi flow? Taxi checklist.
Flight controls.
Checked.
Checked. Flap settings.
Why is this off? Config 2.
Config 2. Radar and predictive wind shear system.
On and auto. On and auto.
Engine mode selector.
Normal.
Ecam memo.
Takeoff no blue.
Taxi checklist completed.
Alright. So we do have to just put in some changed numbers. I'm just going to wait till we're holding at the holding bay here because I don't want to do it while we're moving. Just too much distraction. And if I had an FO, I could probably get him to do it, but even then, it depends on the situation, but if it's low visibility, if it's congested, busy, I may even still opt to wait till we get to a point where we can stop. Because the only time you're at a truly low risk situation on the ground is when the brakes are set. That's it. The rest of the time, you're at least a moderate risk. Anytime the airplane's moving, you're at least moderate risk because there is a chance you could blunder. You could go the wrong way. You could end up on a, on a runway by mistake. It could certainly happen. It has happened. It will happen again probably. So I certainly try to as much as possible keep to a what's the word I'm looking for? Keep to a sterile flight deck and try to keep the distractions to a minimum. And some of these checklists are quite long, and they can be quite challenging to try and get them done in the time frame. So we're just going to go a little bit, do a little oversteer here so I can stop with the nose wheel straight. And then we'll just do this quick update to our takeoff numbers. It looks dry outside, but with the light rain, it doesn't hurt to have the correct speeds in here.
Oxygen will be provided. Masks like this will appear automatically. Stay in your seat and pull a mask towards you.
Alright, so we're just going to set the parking brake. Perfect. Okay, so let's just get those speeds in. So what were they? They were 43, 51, 54. 143, 151, 154. 143, 151, 154. It's still 2.4 up with a flex of 64, still 1020. Alright, just wet numbers, otherwise it hasn't changed too much our plan of attack here. And I think we're ready to go. Unless I've missed something, but I think we're ready to go. I feel like I'm missing something. Change the takeoff numbers. I think everything's good to go. Is this thing tracking us? It is tracking us. We did taxi, and yeah, my pilot's life is tracking us. All right. Tampa traffic. JetBlue 48 is taking position, runway 1 left for departure, straight out on the BAPO 1. Runway entry procedure.
Takeoff runway confirmed. Approach path clear of traffic. Cabin crew be seated for takeoff.
Please ask one of the crew. Thank you.
Lineup checklist.
Takeoff runway.
1 left confirmed.
Runway 01 left confirmed. TCAS.
TARA.
Packs 1 and 2.
On.
Lineup checklist completed.
Pack 2. He doesn't know this. I remember what I wanted to do really quickly here was I need to adjust these speeds. That's what I was thinking. I need to adjust these speeds so the callouts happen at the right time. 143. Sorry, 143. 151. 154. That's what I was. I knew there was one more thing I had to adjust. All right. Takeoff.
Check.
Manflex 64 SRS runway auto thrust blue.
Checked. Thrust set. 100 knots. V1. Rotate. Positive climb.
Gear up. Nav.
Gear up.
Climb all blue. Thrust climb auto thrust. Flaps 1.
Speed checked. Flaps 1.
Definitely feel like the frame rate is much better now than it was. Flap 0.
Speed checked. Flap 0.
Speed managed. Alright, so we have air pack 2 off, and that is a known fault, so clear air pack, clear air, and status. No change in status, clear status, clear status. Alright, ECAM actions are complete. Still hand flying just for the fun of it, because it's not a very RNAVy departure, but actually we should probably go direct to Finky at this point. So let's go direct Finky. We could probably set ourselves a higher altitude because that's 5,000 climbing 6,000. So let's go ahead and put autopilot 1 on. I still had some control input there when I put it on. Speed, Alt Star. Let's go ahead and start climbing. $10,000 feet is set, and thrust climb, open climb, all blue. Alright, we are underway. It's a little bit dreary out here. We're going to have to watch the temperature. It's not really dropping here. We're still at 25 degrees here. It's a warm day down in Florida, so it's not dropping too much. But as we start to approach our 10,000 feet here, we're going to look for higher from Jacksonville, assuming he's still online. No, he logged off. Oh, bah humbug. Well then, in that case, I guess we're going to just set our final. Boo. Never fails. He's got a flight going and the ATC leaves on you. Isn't that always the way it happens? Alright, so there's flight level 310 set for our final. We are in managed speed. We're in open climb. It doesn't make a difference because there are no restrictions on this climb, so open or managed climb is either way is fine. Alright. Looking good. So far everything is functional on this airplane. Well into climb phase. Keep having to adjust the brightness here just to sort of compensate for the clouds. Clear radnav.
Okay.
I see there's an FS2 crew call, so I thought I'd try that. Alright, so that is 10,600. We're climbing for flight level 310. He's got all the lights off, the seat belts off. The other things you got to do at 10,000 feet as well. Clear any radnav or departure fixes. Recopy the secondary, because the secondary still has us returning to Tampa. We've gotten off the ground successfully. We're not planning a return, so we're going to copy the active at this point. And a quick recheck of the prog page to make sure that it's still valid. Cruising 310. Optimal will be up to 35 and max 375, so that's good. Also need to make sure we get guard up on 2 at 10,000. No later than 10,000 anyways. Alright, come on. We can do this. 21.5. There we go. Now let's turn it on so it's actually listening. And let's see, our cabin is pressurizing. So we got, it is climbing at 500 feet per minute. We do have a differential of 4.1 with a current cabin altitude of 26. So it does seem to be holding a planned cabin altitude. And last but not least, fuel check. So we've burned 860 kilos, currently 95 in the tank, and 4 and 4 and 7 and 7. That basically adds up. And that gives us 95 and 8. That's 10.3, which is what we started with. So the fuel is all accounted for. There is no fuel leak. Bob's your uncle. We're on our way. Oh, that's a lot of talking sometimes. Ugh, all right. We are on our way, so I would appreciate anybody's impression on that performance there. In terms of just the, what am I trying to say here? The like the frame rate, anyways. Not my performance as a pilot. You can criticize that if you want, but I was speaking more to the performance of the streaming software because it definitely seemed like it ran a little better that time. That being said, I'm getting very shiny, transparent head going on over here. You can just see right through me there. So. A little bit too bright almost. I just kind of want to take it down a notch. give me 1 second here. I'm just going to really quickly try and adjust that lighting. A little tiny bit darker, but I think it's better. At least I'm not suffering from transparent head anymore. Yeah, and I think the thing is that the sun came out. It was a little cloudier earlier. There's a window there. It's a shade across it, but it's not a complete total blackout shade. So it's definitely a little more. It's definitely a little brighter in here than when I first started the stream, I think. So that's why the kind of light level went up. So I'm trying to always find like the best light level, and it's a good amount of ambient light. Like I have to say I did a pretty good job in this room. It's all pot lights, so it's a very distributed light, but there is one pot light right up here. If I can put it, yeah, right up there. There's a pot light, so that tends to create quite a bit of wash on my face. Other than that, the lighting in the room is pretty nice and even. Set standard.
Standard cross-check. Passing flight level 187. Now.
Whoa! Now. That's a little, it's a little aggressive there, wasn't it, buddy? Now. Anywho, oh, I gotta set the other one too. Nav barrel ref discrepancy, disregard. Because it is possible to link them together, and on some of the aircraft I actually do have that set, so I've stopped kind of looking over there to reset that one, and I got to get back in the habit of setting that one. Anywho, yeah, so welcome back to the stream, everybody. It's another leg of a pilot's life, and what can I talk about today? So the one thing I did really kind of want to talk about, at least a little bit, was Navigraph again. So Navigraph never stops improving, and every single time they put out, it's funny because they have a very fixed update schedule that's been set for them by ICAO, because every 8 weeks they have to push updated nav data, and they usually put out an email every single time they push updated nav data out to their servers. And hand in hand with that, they also get a chance to sort of push software updates every single time. So I'm going to go back to the screen capture mode now that we're airborne. Hopefully the frame rate will not fall too much here. It looks pretty good right now. But yeah, so Navigraph has pushed their updates even farther. So what with a big kind of the big thing they did now is the SimBrief map that we're all kind of, hopefully by now we're all pretty familiar with here, actually has the full Navigraph weather charts upon it. So you can not just do weather radar, you could do that before. You used to be able to do winds as well. You could do winds. Now you can overlay these kind of multiple layers together, but now all the rest of the Navigraph layers are on here. So for myself today, when I was planning this flight, I was kind of looking at the weather radar, because I always look at the weather radar to see if there's any serious convective activity anywhere. I didn't see anything too exciting along our route to LaGuardia, which I said, good, that's good. But then there's usually two other things you look at as a dispatcher. One is, as I implied here, the winds. You want to see where the winds are, and kind of doing it. You could do it as barbs. You could do it as jet streams. Either way is kind of nice. You can pick your altitude. So flight level 310 is our planned cruise, but you could do different altitudes to kind of see what do kind of a comparison, see what the winds are like at different altitudes. And obviously with this jet stream here, the redder the color, the stronger the wind. So we're going to pass a pretty strong jet stream here on our way up to New York. The other one that often factors a lot into flight planning, at least, is turbulence. And it depends upon the airline. It depends upon the mission. If you're doing a short, hour and a bit flight, chances are there's only one route between your origin and your destination. ATC always wants you to fly the same route between your origin and your destination. Especially, and again, it also depends on where you are, but like certainly anywhere in the Northeast U.S., there's one route usually between origins and destinations. They don't want you to fly any other route unless they've given you that route specifically to try and maybe get around some actual known weather or some other issues. But Once you start to get anything more than about an hour and a half and up, turbulence begins to factor into it, because first of all, you're up there for a lot longer, so chances are your airline has to do a meal service, serve hot drinks, and just the general comfort of passengers. You want to avoid turbulence as best you can, and so that's potentially another big factor. So I pulled up the turbulence chart here, and this is actually was a big play. It wasn't a big amount of play, but it was a little bit of play in the selection of my flight plan today. Not so much the route itself, though you could try and pick a route, but as you can see, because of this jet stream that we just saw that crosses our route halfway up here, there's pretty much no avoiding the fact there is going to be some turbulence. It's a pretty strong jet stream. It's 130 knots, 120 knots. It's going to be bumpy getting in and getting out. But what we can do is we can avoid the worst of it, and that's what we did. So the original optimal, I think, was going to be 35, and as you can see, 35 here, there's an even higher possible turbulence index up here. So there's definitely quite a bit of red stuff. I would definitely say where you would get into light, if not potentially moderate turbulence on this flight at 350. And so what I kind of looked at going up. Up is not usually often an option in the 320. This is an airplane that tends to like to sit in the lower 30s. Unless you're flying the 319, it tends to be more comfortable in the lower 30s. If you get to 35 or 36, that's a pretty big day. It's not a big day, but it doesn't happen all that often. Most of the time we're starting off 30, 32, 33, 34, something like that. 33 wasn't too bad, but then I started going down to 310, and I said, okay, now it definitely is showing a better trend. It's definitely less turbulent. So I actually picked 310 as our final cruise altitude today, just as a reasonable kind of compromise between wind, but also keeping us out of kind of the worst turbulence. And there is actually this little red spot wasn't here when I checked it a few, an hour ago when I was doing the flight planning. So we may even need to go lower than that, and that's part of our flight plan as well. So if I pull over as well, if I pull over my actual, I don't actually have it open. I've been using it all inside here, but if I pull open the actual flight plan here, you'll see I have dispatch remarks. ATC fuel for arrival and delays. So we had 10 minutes of ATC fuel, but we have 15 minutes of weather fuel for en route turbulence, as well as MEL number 2152018. So we actually have 15 minutes of weather fuel that's been specifically assigned for dispatch for avoiding en route turbulence. So looking at this, looking at 290, if it's really bad at 310, if we go down to 290, the thing about going down in altitude is usually it costs you more fuel. Usually you burn a little bit more fuel the lower you go. The air is a little bit thicker. It takes a little bit more energy to push you through that air. So usually the lower you go, the more fuel you're going to burn. So you don't want to go too low. But by giving us this extra fuel, if ATC comes on the horn and reports that, hey, we're getting moderate turbulence reported at 310 by all types, you could say, hey, can we go down to 29 or even 27 for a little while? I've done flights at like 210 to avoid turbulence. So what if you go down to 210? Well, it looks pretty darn good to me. You may even want to come start at like 290, and then as you sort of approach the area of turbulence here, then you kind of quickly punch through it in a descent, and then you're below it. So that was my logic today. So I picked 310 as an altitude specifically to try and avoid the worst of the turbulence, which really starts to pick up at 33 and 35. Seemed to be the worst. I wasn't sure if we were going to even get to 35, but I specifically manually selected 31 to try and keep that turbulence, and I gave us extra fuel. So if we have to go down, if it's starting to get really choppy up here, getting uncomfortable for us and our passengers, let's go down. And it's one of those things that pilots do that most passengers are just not aware it ever happens. There's 301 climbing 310. It's one of those things that most of the time pilots do, and people are not aware that happens. You're bumping along a moderate turbulence, complaining that, why can't we find a smooth air? Chances are the pilots tried. The chances are there just is none. And oftentimes when you get to the high level sectors, that is sometimes, especially if it is getting to be a bumpy day. If it's a smooth day, nobody's really saying much about it. But if it's getting to be a bumpy day with continuous light and even moderate turbulence out there, 50% of the conversations in the high-level sector is just everybody just trying to find some smooth air. Hey, if I go up, does it get better? If I go down, does it get better? How long before it gets better? Mach Alt Star. Oh, getting a little turbulence there. I can't even remember if we took the seatbelt sign off or not. We did take the seatbelt sign off, so it's off for now. There's Mach Alt Cruise. Alright, so first let's do a cruise procedure. So we're just going to look through the whole flight deck again, just like we did pre-flight, and just make sure that all the switches are in the correct position. There's nothing on or moved that shouldn't be moved. Everything looks good. Normal. Everything's managed. No special memos, just a company memo, probably asking why we left late. I tend to disregard those. I'll answer them if I can, but it's pretty low on the priority list. Alright, everything looks to be pretty normal here. I don't see anything that's in the wrong spot that isn't where it should be. And the other thing we'll do, of course, we'll check all of our systems as well, just to make sure everything is turning normally, functioning great. Pack 2, you'll see Pack 2 is showing full low. It is still turned off. We have definitely been able to maintain pressurization. We can maintain pressurization in the 320 on a single pack. It's not a problem. It's got to go to full high flow to do it, but it's definitely doable. Pack 2 is off. That's intentional. That outflow valve is just about fully closed. It's open just a hair. But it is maintaining altitude here. We are able to maintain a cabin altitude of 5,800, no problem. If we lose a second pack, we're going to immediately be into an oxygen situation. Not too much energy being used by the generators, hydraulics. Lots got used up by the green system when the gear retracted. Fuel again, looking good. APU. Air conditioning, it's keeping the cabin nice and cool, 21 degrees, I like it. Brakes are nice and cool, flight controls, everything should be running more or less in the neutral position if everything's properly trimmed, 1.6 up. Quick, more thorough analysis of the fuel page, so we burned 1720, which makes sense, 860 plus 860, that sounds right. 1720, and then let's see here, in the tanks I've got 36... let's see here, 43 in each tank. That comes up to 86. Perfect. So 86 at 17. 9.6, 10.3, which is what we started with. So the fuel does check, and I start a timer at this point, and I always check it every 30 minutes. So when that timer hits 30 minutes, we do another recheck just to make sure we're not leaking fuel. That's basically it for the cruise procedure. If it's the first flight of the day, also check the compass in flight. So we are right now tracking about 027. And the compass looks really accurate, 027. Perfect. Love it. All right. And yeah, we're underway. The last thing I'm just going to do is a... just going to start flight tracking here. So 24 minutes ago, we took off, which would put us at 15... So let's see here. It's 14, 30... Oh, math is hard. 37. 1537 we took off at. So let's start our nav log here. Do it in blue just so it's easy to see. And so that's what we do. 1537 was the actual time off of Tampa. And then so 3 minutes. '51. And nowadays we have an app on our EFBs that would do this automatically for us and would add this all up for us, but I don't have the app, doesn't exist right now. (1613, 1619, 28). Lots of waypoints on this flight today. Pages and pages of nav log. And yet you can go halfway across the country sometimes and not use up as many pages. Just a quick little math test for me today. Oops. 1707. Almost there, and then now we're on the star. 10. So now we can start to see our arrival time in New York here. The app does make it a lot easier. You just put in the first time and it automatically calculates the time over each waypoint, and it keeps adjusting it as you go to see how you're comparing with your original departure time. Oh my god, there's another page. Oh my god. 28, 1731. Wow, there's a lot of waypoints on this flight. We went to San Juan. There was not even half as many waypoints. It was like a quarter, 10% of the waypoints. All right, perfect. All right, now let's actually just quickly update it here. So we're just coming up to. We'll do it from. We're going to pass KJ-03 Sierra in 2 minutes. So in 2 minutes, we'll just do an update there. So, yeah, but that was the big update, though, was that Navigraph has once again gone above and beyond. Thank you, Navigraph. They just keep on improving their service every day, and we're now we now have like their full suite of weather products here on the flight planning page, so you can see the whole route, you can see everything. It's really nice, the whole amount of weather. So it's not just the weather radar. It used to be just weather radar, winds. I think they had significant weather. That was it. Now you can do everything. So you can do convective cloud tops if you want. Let's get rid of turbulence, convective cloud tops. There's not too many. Cloud cover. Let's do cloud cover. Some cloud cover. Hopefully by the time we get to New York, it's clear. There is still significant weather. It is still there. You can see we're passing through almost a dual jet stream here. Flight level 430, there's a almost 150 knot jet stream, and then at flight level 390, there's a, oh my god, there's a 165 knot jet stream. We're back to winter again. We got the strong jet streams going here again. Wow. But yeah, thank you again, Navigraph. Like that's a great improvement. Just more flexibility for all of us to be able to do even better weather planning. So yeah, what can I say? But thank you, Navigraph. I'm just gonna try turning that on and see if that makes it, because there's a huge shadow happening down here now. It bugs me a little bit here. But if I do that too bright, it's just gonna again make me invisible. It's a little better. All right, not invisible but transparent. Oh. That did not sound like it came through on the correct. There was a big Unicom call there. Do I not have it on the right output? I thought I did. Output device. Oh, I don't have it on the right output device. I'm sorry. Not that there was anything anyways. That's the first VATSIM ATC call I've heard so far. So not that it's really kind of causing trouble, but okay, sorry. So there, now it's going to be on the correct device. Hopefully we'll get some other ATC as we get close to New York. New York sometimes pops up during the middle of the day. All right, so there goes KJ 03 Sierra. So we've got 1506 with 8400 in the tanks. Let's do it here. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. So let's see here. Did I not put the right takeoff time in? Oh, I put the wrong I'm supposed to put 1437. Ah. Okay. Let's just do this. KJ03 Sierra at 1506 and 8300 in the tanks. So we're a little bit down on the fuel. We're 100 kilos low on the fuel. We had quite a lot of extra, though. We had 1.8 extra, so I'm not too worried about 100 kilos. That's a rounding error at this point. And we were 6 minutes late over KJ03 Sierra. Did I not do something right here? I probably did something wrong. 1537, 1540, 42, 45, 51, 55, 1600. Yeah. I don't know. I did something wrong, but that's okay. The climb is oftentimes there's variations in the climb. Once you get up into cruise, this trend should continue. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to bother editing all of these, but I added an hour. I accidentally put the wrong takeoff time. Instead of 14, I put 15:37. So I'm just going to look at these without changing the hour, but know that I'm wrong here. So yeah, our landing time should actually be 16:49, which actually makes more sense. I was wondering how this flight was going to be so long.
Clear runway 14 on the Xbox 2 to direct Jack's traffic.
All right, and so there goes Jack's traffic. All right. Let's see what else. So it's not a very long flight today. It really is just it's a little under 2 hours. So you know, we can find some stuff to talk about. There was kind of one interesting little tidbit that I saw, and I thought you guys might get a kick out of this. And I'm sort of personally like I'm looking at this, and they're talking about this, and it's just one of those things that's just making me go like, what? Like, who is looking at this and saying that this is the best solution. But some of you have probably seen this in the news, but it was a couple weeks ago now. I feel like it was 2, 3, maybe more weeks ago. There was an aircraft in Russia that an A320 in Russia that had a hydraulics failure, had some kind of a hydraulics issue, hydraulics failure, and again, I'm paraphrasing. I haven't seen the official reports. I've mostly just read news reports in the media. I haven't been able to find an official report. I don't know if you'll ever will, and I don't read Russian, so even if I find an official report, I'm probably not going to know what it says. But you know, I throw it in Google Translate. But regardless, to the best of my knowledge, what happened is that there was a hydraulic failure of some kind after departure. Yeah, there was a hydraulic failure of some kind after departure, and what happened was yeah, I believe it was the green system, because the gear did not come up. And this is the problem that the crew had, was that they either didn't realize or did not realize the implications of the fact that the gear did not come up. So they had this failure. They carried on for a while, and really, when you have a hydraulic failure, like it's a pretty serious situation in any aircraft. There are, you know, additional hydraulic systems for redundancy, but the second you lose one of your major systems like that, and hydraulics is one of the major systems, hydraulics and electrical and engines probably are like the three things that if you lose one of those systems, you don't want to carry on very far. You want to be really thinking about going somewhere, because you've lost a major portion of your redundancy, and if you lose any of the remaining systems, you could be in a very, very bad place. So hydraulics is one of them. Electricals and engines are the other ones that you lose one of them, it becomes a very serious situation very quickly. But anyway, so this crew carried on for some time after having had a green hydraulic system failure, and apparently what they did not realize either was that they either did not realize that the gear was still down, which the amount of noise that comes from the gear, it would surprise me if you didn't notice that. It would honestly surprise me as a pilot if you didn't notice that. Like, I get it, like there's stuff going on the flight deck, and it's a little bit chaotic now because there's been a failure, but still, to not notice that the gear is still down for a substantial period of time. Or maybe they were aware that the gear had not come up on, because I guess that's happened on departure, so the gear never retracted because that green hydraulic system broke down on departure. The other thing is they didn't realize the implication of that. The drag from the landing gear on an A320 is phenomenal. And it's not that it's phenomenal, but the airplane is very efficient. It's designed to be very efficient. So when you do have that situation where you get a green hydraulic system failure, you get the landing gear down and stuck down for whatever reason, whether it be hydraulic system failure or some other landing gear system failure, it's a huge drag penalty. And I'll tell you right off the top of my head that the drag penalty is 180%, as in 180% on top of what you're expecting, or the fuel consumption will be 180% more than what you're expecting it to be. So if you're burning, you know, in cruise right now, looking at it right now, we're burning 1,200 kilos aside, we're burning 2,400 kilos an hour. The second the second you have a gear issue like this, just to try and maintain speed and altitude, and obviously it would be a challenge to do that, but you would immediately increase your fuel burn to almost 6,000 kilograms per hour from 2,400. So it's 2.8 times more fuel burn. You could pretty much round it up and just say 3 times. 3 times the fuel burn with the gear hanging down. An incredible amount of extra fuel burned. So, and I think most Airbus A320 pilots are aware of this, are very much aware of that number. It's one of the biggest numbers you can get out of this airplane. If the landing gear does not come up, it's a huge drag penalty. You're going to immediately have problems. But for whatever reason, this crew either did not realize the gear was still down, or realized the gear was down but did not realize the severity of the implications and were still trucking along, and then they basically ran out of fuel and they had to do a landing in a field, in a farm field, in an A320, because they basically ran out of fuel. That is the story to the best of everything I've been able to read about it. It may not be 100% accurate. It certainly raises some questions about the crew if this was the scenario that they put themselves into. And I will say that they put themselves into this scenario. This was not, you know, if it happened on departure, it should have been like an immediate return. It should have been, you know, land there or land somewhere nearby. They should never have kept on trucking along to another faraway airport, because you're burning way too much fuel if that gear is stuck down. Nothing else compares to it. The flaps, the slats, the spoilers, any other kind of drags device on the aircraft, you're talking a less than 100% increase. whereas the gear it's 180%, so it's a huge increase. But yeah, so they did, and if you go look out on the internet, you can find pictures of this A320 that landed in a farm field, and everyone, the landing was reasonably safe. Everyone walked out of the aircraft, so you know, kudos to the pilots at least for that. They found a field that was suitable. They managed to land a 50 or 60 ton airplane in a farm field, which again, that to me blows my mind. But the fact that they were able to do it, find a field that was long enough, suitable, land the airplane without tearing the gear off, quite impressive. What is really just blowing my mind about this whole story now, and I think it speaks a little bit to the desperation in Russia, especially in the airlines where they need every airplane and every part they can get their hands on, is the current plan is that they're going to fly the airplane back out again. And that's what just completely blows me away. And it's not even like it's something that's being extremely seriously considered by this airline. Is we're going to fly it back out again. They're talking about how can we remove weight. They're probably going to take all the seats out of the airplane, take as much equipment out of the airplane as possible, to make it as light as possible, to make it possible for the airplane to take off and fly to another airport and land, and then reinstall all the equipment again and continue flying the airplane, continue to service it. And I think it speaks again to the pilots, to their skill, that they managed to land in a field and not damage the airplane in any serious way, that the airplane is in a condition where it can be flown out. But I just have to wonder. Like, I look at the takeoff roll on the A320. You know, even on a relatively lightly loaded A320, you're still on a paved, smooth surface. You're still easily chewing up most of 5,000 to 6,000 feet of runway. I probably wouldn't want to depart on anything much less than a 6,000 foot paved strip in a 320, and I think the numbers can crunch for a fair bit shorter. But you know, but that's a paved runway. To even contemplate doing it out of a muddy farm field, it just blows my mind. The amount of drag, like the wheels are big on a 320 for sure, but there's a lot of weight on them. The amount of drag you would get trying to get this airplane moving on a soft field like that, unless you build some kind of a temporary runway in front of it somehow. And the military could do that for you, and that might be what it comes down to. And I wonder if that's kind of the thought process. There hasn't been much detail given on it, because the military can build a temporary runway. They have the equipment. I don't know if the Russian military does, but I know the U.S. military builds temporary runways. They literally have an airplane that will come. They have a Herc that'll come that will drop a crate out the back, and the crate is basically full of metal plates. It'll be metal plates that have holes in it to kind of reduce the weight, but it'll be metal plates that they can actually drop this, and in like an hour, a group of 20 or 50 soldiers can assemble a runway that's a couple thousand feet long and 50 feet wide, out of metal plates. And assuming you have a flat enough piece of terrain to begin with, you can actually build a temporary runway and set up an airbase in a remote location in just a matter of a couple of hours. The U.S. military is very efficient at creating bases in remote locations. So I certainly hope that's the process, because just the thought to me of trying to get an A320 to depart out of a soft, muddy field, just out of a farm field, just blows me away. You need a lot of momentum, a lot of inertia to get an A320 moving, and the very idea of that, it blows the mind. It really does. My age, I don't think a lot blows my mind, but that's one that I sort of read about, and having flown the 320, I'm sure that it's going to be the chief pilot or somebody like that flying out of there, but even then, like, it's just an absolutely nerve-wracking experience trying to get this airplane up to a rotation speed on an uneven, on probably what is uneven terrain. It looked like kind of a gentle rolling hill country. There are pictures of this. Let me see if I can find the pictures of it, because there are pictures of this. And kudos to the pilots for what they managed to do here. So here's a picture from it's from the BBC's website. But here it is. So it's a 320. It's landed on a field, and it looks pretty solid. Like, it hasn't sunk in. It definitely sunk in somewhat. It definitely created a bit of a trail here. It's a long, flat field, but it looks like there is kind of, a few small ditches through it. it's a long field, but you know, and certainly I wonder if they're going to take off from where it is, if they're going to try and lay out a path and you know, get it way down to the far end and then turn around and take off and have the whole field. But yeah, it's crazy to me, the idea that they're going to try and get this airplane out of here by flying it out again. But I think if it's serviceable, maybe the field's big enough, long enough, flat enough. But again, speaks just to the desperation of Russian airlines to try and get airplanes any way they can and hold on to them and keep them flying, because they can't buy a new airplane. They just can't buy a new Airbus. They certainly can't buy parts to maintain them, so they're kind of stuck in a hard place there. It just blows my mind though that they're going to try and fly that thing out of there. Like, I thought, you know, and it hasn't been written off for sure, but still. Here's another picture. That's a little bit interesting. This is a different story. This is a very different story. This was again, it's the Ural Airlines. This is an A321 that landed in a field after a dual engine failure due to bird ingestion. But the other thing too is just look at the ground roll here. That ground roll is maybe 2,000 feet. Like, the amount of drag on that gear, even at the speed that this aircraft was landing at, came to a full stop in like 2,000 feet, maybe, if even that. Like, that's not a long ground roll. That's a lot of drag on that gear. Yeah. And what's funny is that there is actually, Airbus has a bit of a solution as well. There is a modification available to the A320 where you can have a dual bogie landing gear. Main landing gear. So instead of having just two wheels on each main landing gear, you can actually get the double bogie where you have 4 wheels on each main landing gear. As I recall, as from everything I've heard, there's only one airline that ever bought this as an option, but it's an option on the A320. Airbus will sell you that option, and the whole idea is, of course, more wheels distributes their weight across a larger ramp area. The idea, it was specifically created for an airline that was operating to some very low quality airports that had problems with the pavement, very weak pavement that wouldn't support the full weight of a 320 across only 4 main wheels. So they doubled it to 8 main wheels, and so it's been an option on the Airbus for years. And if you look on every Airbus, let's see if I can do this here. And it's not actually on here. But if you look, let's see if I can do this here. I'm not doing this right here. Yeah, so most of the Airbuses that I've seen actually have it labeled though. So we have brake fan wheels 1 and 2, 3 and 4. But I believe right below them here, these two blanks right here, and on most of the Airbuses I've seen, it's actually labeled. Brake fan wheels 5 and 6, 7 and 8, and that's kind of the little giveaway that this exists. The engineering exists on almost every Airbus. Is that these circuit breakers, these blanks right here, are designed for wheel brakes 5, 6, 7, and 8. And on a lot of them, they're labeled. They may not, the circuit breaker's not installed, because it's even that at one airline that did buy them eventually got rid of them. So no Airbus currently flying has the dual bogies, but it's still an option that Airbus, that Airbus does support. They will sell it to you if you want to pay for it. And I just wonder, for an aircraft departing a field like that, if it might be worthwhile. And they can't go to Airbus to buy it, is the ironic thing. But if they could go to Airbus to buy it and say, hey, yeah, give us the, sell us the 4-wheel bogies, we'll install it on the airplane in the field, but it'll distribute the weight over a farther area and hopefully make it a little easier to get it off the ground again. That would definitely be a consideration. But yeah, every Airbus does have those circuit breaker blanks in there for for the brake fans for wheels 5, 6, and 7, and 8. All right, we've been going through a couple of waypoints here. Let's just have a look here. So I'm just going to go really quickly over to the VATSIM window here, and wow, it's just a dead morning on VATSIM. There is a tower in LaGuardia. He's already been on for an hour and 40 minutes, which makes me think that by the time we land there in about another hour and 20 minutes, he will be gone. But Always worth thinking about. Hopefully, maybe. Yeah. Hopefully he'll be there. What else can we talk about? Yeah, that just blows me away. This whole Ural Airlines trying to fly their airplane back out of the field again. And I mean, if it's in good condition, I guess I understand the desperation of the airline to get their hands back on the airplane and fly it again. The other thing, of course, is that, pardon me, with all the issues that Ural Airlines seems to be having, I don't know how many seats there's, how many tickets they're selling. Their tickets must be dirt cheap, because I don't know if I don't think I would ever personally get on the Ural Airlines airplane, because it seems like they've had more than one issue. Doesn't seem like it's necessarily a very well-run airline, or you know. Anyways, it doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies, that's for sure, about riding on their airline. All right, we're just coming up to let's see here, J Ross. So let's see if I can find J Ross here for another fuel and position check here. All right, so where's J Ross? Here it is, J Ross. Perfect. I wonder if he started the run timer when we left the gate instead of took off. That's very possible. So 15:25 with 7.7. $15.25 with 7.7. He must have started that when we started taxiing, because again, exactly 6 minutes. So we're not losing any time. We're sticking to the plan here. 7.7. We're now actually up on gas as we pass J Ross. So we burned a little bit of excess gas in the climb out, perhaps, but we've definitely made up for it now that we're leveled off in cruise. So that's looking nice. We do have 82 knots. I can see 82 knots across the airplane there. Pretty much a straight crosswind as we fly through the jet stream on our way from Florida to New York. But yeah, looking pretty good overall. Yeah, there was another one last week that, oh, yeah, that now that I think about it, there was another. Yeah, there was another incident that came up last week. It was late last week. That was really kind of scary to watch. And yeah, you've probably all seen this video. For anybody who hasn't, if you get a chance to watch this video, it's quite something. Just trying to find it here. I know I shouldn't be playing too many videos, but it was Chattanooga. It wasn't Nashville. But yeah, there was a FedEx airplane that had a very serious situation, and it made for just an absolutely crazy videos. And I haven't watched this one yet, but I don't think there's one that was actually taken by what looks like it was a video. It was this. The video looked like it was taken by first responders. And of course, we have advertising, because why wouldn't we? That's the only way anybody makes any money on the internet anymore. And this does not look like it's it does kind of show it a little bit, actually. It really does quite show it, but the other one was quite something. So it's not this one, but the video that this still actually came from a video. It was a fantastic, just being in the right spot at the right time kind of video. Let's see if I can find it better. Because this video just it must have made the rounds of the internet for sure. It was just something to look at. Let's see if I can. But at the same time, it was quite an impressive piece of flying. But basically, from what I can gather from everything that I have read, was the everything that I could see from what I've read was that this aircraft had a hydraulic issue while it was had a hydraulic issue shortly after departure, and they ended up circling around. They ended up coming back, and the trouble was that because of the hydraulic issue, the gear never came down. And you know, it's one thing, you know, if you have a hydraulic issue, we use the emergency extension, but in this case, the gear just did not come down. There was nothing they could do, so they had to land. I believe it's a 5.7, and there it is, and just land it, no gear, and that's just it. Just the engines just scraping along the ground. And what an impressive piece of flying. They hit the pavement. They hit it as softly as they could, but just something to see. Just this shower, this absolute storm of sparks just streaming out behind the airplane because they're literally coming down on nothing but the engines. And there was a great picture even the next day, like, you know, it ended up veering off the side of the runway. I mean, once you touch the ground with nothing but engines, no gear, you have some steering with the rudder until the speed decreases. Literally, you're pretty much in a controlled crash at that point. You have almost no control authority. The only control you have left after you touch the ground in that situation is you do have the rudder until the rudder loses effectiveness. As you slow down, the rudder loses effectiveness, but you have no ability to stop the aircraft. No brakes, no thrust reversers. You're just driving. And yeah, and at that point, as soon as you lose effectiveness with the rudder, there's no steering either. So they did go off the end of the runway. It's not surprising, given that they had no ability to stop the aircraft. But the crew all evacuated safely. It was a cargo aircraft, fortunately, so there were no passengers on board. The crew evacuated safely. There was actually no post-crash fire for all that shower of sparks as those metal engines just went grinding down the runway. There was actually no post-crash fire. They landed successfully. The crew evacuated. The aircraft is, I would imagine the aircraft's probably going to be a write-off, but it's possible not. It's, you know, taking an impact in a way it's not designed to. The engine pylons actually holding up the whole airplane instead of the other way around. The engine pylons themselves are absolutely disintegrated. There was a picture, and the one side, it's just like the engine has been completely decimated. So the engines are completely written off. Whether or not they rescued the airplane itself, they might. It's possible. It's definitely possible. It's definitely feasible. If there's not too much strain on the aircraft, but yeah, well, it's still an impressive piece of flying. A little bit sobering thing to watch, but nevertheless, well done on behalf of the crew. So congrats to them on a job well done, evacuated as well as, you know, executed as safely as was possible. They went off the end of the runway, but there really was no choice. They had no way of stopping the airplane. So, you know, they went off the end, but there was a clear way for long enough that the aircraft came to a stop in the grass, and everyone got out. So it's quite something to see. But just watching the time here, and we've got to do a fuel check, and it's not even a fuel check here. It's just a fuel check just to make sure we're not leaking. So just to confirm that the fuel used adds up with the fuel on board, adds up to the total fuel we started with. So we've used 2,900, 14, yeah, that makes sense, plus 74, 84, 94, 10.3, which is exactly what we started with. And just to confirm that these numbers are balanced, and they do add up. 37 and 37 becomes 74. Yes, perfect. Yeah, so that good fuel check. We'll just keep that timer running. When it gets to 60 minutes, we'll do another fuel check. I barely even looked out the window at all on this trip. I've been chatting and enjoying talking about stuff, but you know, it's important to keep an eye on these things. Noisy Airbuses. In the back, you don't hear the engines, you just hear the slipstream. You kind of hear the engines off in the distance. In the front, you really get the grind. Might even take myself away for a second here. Just make a nice screenshot for my title card, maybe. Just try and get it a little bit more centered. And it is a nice looking model. It really does look good. It's like you can reach out there and just touch all the different components sometimes. And you do, you get a lot of detail on this airplane, a lot of antennas. Just trying to pick some good angles that might be good for my title card here one day. But the paint looks really good. The individual probes, you can see the pitot probe, the total air temperature probes. You can see the transponder antennas hanging down, water drains, even the drains on the bottom of the engine casing, everything's there. Static wicks on all these different surfaces, and it's ridiculous how many static wicks are on this airplane, I forget. It's like 13 just to a wingtip alone. And then tail, the rudder's got 4 or 5. Each side of the horizontal stab's got another 6 or 7. Like, it's phenomenal to see. And it's all modeled. The only thing that's not modeled, and actually it is modeled, but it's not modeled correctly, that I find, and maybe it's just taking advantage of the simplification of the MSFS system, is the fact that both nav lights are on all the time. So you got 2 reds, 2 whites, and 2 greens. And both of them are on all the time, and that's not the case. Because here in the flight deck, I've got it selected to number 1. So it should just be the one light on each side should be on, not both lights on each side. So that's one thing. It bothers me a little bit. It's another one of those little things, but I think part of it is that that way they can piggyback through the systems that are built to MSFS, and it's nice to have an aircraft that has its own set of systems that is very realistic, but at the same time it's also nice to, as a developer, to utilize what's available within MSFS. By using what's available in MSFS, it allows you to simplify some of the systems tracking. You don't have to worry about certain variables. You can also allow for external controls, so I can have my own hardware that controls these things, that sort of thing. Looking very nice. And speaking of external hardware that controls these things, I am looking forward to, and I think I mentioned this already, but I'm looking forward to getting my MiniFCU. And let's see here. I think they posted another update. Let's see if they've got it here. MiniFCU. Trying to see if there's been any updates posted here. I mean, there have been updates posted. Oh yeah, there's the updates page. So they did post an update this month, and I was just thinking that just like a couple days ago that the MiniFCU has not posted or Mini Cockpit has not posted any updates for a little while here. And I think I've got this on the wrong thing. I need that one there so you guys can see this. But yeah, so there's the October update. So the finished product, they've got all the parts. They've actually started assembling it. So they had a picture here, I think. Yeah, there it is. They've actually started the assembly process for the parts for MiniFCU. So, and they're putting together like 5,000 of these things. So it is actually like a decent production line that they've got to have working on this here. I do appreciate how bright those lights are. Sometimes I'm trying to repair stuff in my house. I do not have a bright set of lights. Do not have a good workbench anywhere in my house, really. I mean, the best place I have is like on my computer desk, which I really don't like to do like dirty jobs there, but sometimes it's the best place to work. But yeah, so they've got all the various parts, and they're putting these things together, circuit boards, everything. It was kind of really nice to see all this stuff coming together. And they've also selected a fulfillment partner so that the shipping will happen. And the one thing is they said that they are committed to trying to make sure it gets to us before Christmas. So they figure that it's going to roll out of the factory and get to the shipping warehouse at the end of November, and from there it'll start shipping overseas to get to us. So hopefully it'll get to us on time. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to being able to control my FCU with another set of knobs. Not that I need another piece of hardware on my desk, because my desk is crowded enough with a control column. The Honeycomb Bravo takes up a lot of space. And then there's this video here, which I didn't actually hit play before because I didn't see it on my phone. But yeah, it is nice to see everything work, and like the numbers, the feedback, it all links together. You can control your sim with it. It's fantastic. One thing that'll be a pity is that because of the way Fenix is written, they won't be able to take advantage of this, and nobody can actually read the variables out. So you can put the inputs in there. You'll be able to move the knobs, but you'll have to watch on the screen. You won't actually, these displays won't work, which is a real big shame. And it's enough to almost convince me to try fly-by-wire a little bit more and try their 320, because with the fly-by-wire 320 you do get this. This might be the fly-by-wire 320 here. Full interactivity. You won't get that on. You won't get that in the Fenix, and that's the biggest drawback to the whole thing is that with the Fenix, you can't read the numbers out of the Fenix. So these numbers here, the displays will just be blank on your FCU. You can still see them in the sim, but you won't be able to see them actually outside the sim, which to me is a bit of a shame. It's a bit of a pity. I really wish that they could overcome that licensing restriction. I mean, that being said, Fenix has done an excellent job bringing us a great airplane for about $50. It's not a bad airplane at all. They've done a nice job with it, but I just, I yearn to have that interactivity. I hope it's gonna come in the end. I realize that Fenix's hands are kind of tied because this is the agreement that they signed on for, was when they got a license to use partially developed code for a 320 and flesh it out into a fully formed 320 in the Microsoft Flight Simulator environment. I realized that was one of the restrictions that was placed on it, was that they couldn't make use of external hardware, and that's one of the reasons why the other thing that is big missing from the Fenix, and I really hope that one day somebody is able to solve this, whether Fenix does it directly or whether someone like Avia Server can make this work. But to have the MCDU unit on a tablet, like we do with the PMDG 737, to have the MCDU be able to output it, because I've got a giant tablet here that is doing me absolutely no good, because it's a restriction on the way the software is designed and the way it's licensed, first of all. So even if they wanted to create the variables and create the API to allow other people to do it, they're not allowed to by their licensing restriction, which is it's a shame, because I tell you, I hate clicking on the screen constantly. That's one of the reasons why I'm looking forward to MiniFCU, is I don't have to reach out there, and as I can actually reach out there and actually twist the real knobs instead of just constantly click, 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 click with the mouse like this. I really enjoy simming, and I enjoy the interactivity, and the mouse is a great way to kind of interact with the sim in a kind of a 3D environment. But just to have certain aspects be non-mouse, and number one on my list is actually the MCDU with its amount of interface. It's perfectly sized and designed to be beautifully replicated on a tablet, and a tablet will do that job so nicely. And it's a real shame that Fenix does not allow that to happen. And again, I'm not mad at them per se, because they signed a certain deal, they signed a certain license agreement to be able to get a head start on a 320 and do the wonderful things they've done. But if there's one complaint I do have about the airplane, it's that I can't input to it with a tablet. If that's my biggest single complaint about the Fenix, is that all my other aircraft, I can do that, and I love it. I have it sitting here pretty much where the real MCDU is, and I can kind of reach and tap on it in a normal way, and I don't have the problem with trying to hit the buttons, and occasionally you get this little up-down arrow, that, the little scroll arrow or whatever on some of the buttons, the edges, that you can't actually touch the button when you want to. There goes another waypoint, so let's just do this again here. There's so many waypoints, it's not worth doing every single one, but we'll do one about every 15 minutes here. So Al was at 1542 with 7. And we're actually doing pretty good here. So we're up 200 kilos on the fuel still. We're actually only 5 minutes behind the original time, so we're actually making up time en route here, which is good. Good. So we're definitely not going to run out of gas or anything. That's one of the primary reasons why you're doing these checks, is to just sort of validate that the flight plan is valid, that the fuel predictions and the fuel burn are valid, and that we are likely to make it to our destination with sufficient fuel. It's one of the most limited resources in an airplane. You want to make sure that you know how much you're using, what you're using it for, how long before it's going to be ready. All right. Let's see here. Anyways, yeah, it's a pity about the Fenix, but I'm looking forward to my MiniFCU regardless. Even if I can't see outputs on the screen, it'll be nice to be able to interact with it. And I'm very much considering so the MiniFCU unit is just the central unit on the glare shield here. It's just this right here is the MiniFCU from this line to this line. Then they're putting out a second unit that goes beside it, and even a third unit. So the second unit is going to be pretty much exactly a replica of this. You'll be able to set the altimeter setting, change your nav mode, ADF, all that stuff. I very much am interested in that because, again, just adds a little more level to it. Whether or not it's worthwhile, again, yeah. And I know that because of the amount of feedback, the amount of units they managed to sell to the Kickstarter, they're very much looking forward to the next generation here. So mini EFIS and mini ECAM, which is kind of a smart thing. It's not 100% accurate, but to have the ECAM buttons up will be very nice. Yeah, okay. I'd like more information about mini EFIS, but there's really not much here. I don't think their blog covered it, or did they? Because I think I read in one of their updates that they were getting yeah, I thought I read that they had one of their updates that they were moving on to the mini EFIS because the MiniFCU had done so well that they were already moving on to the mini EFIS, I think was what I had read. I think. Yeah, I can't seem to find it, but I think they had talked about it anyways. But just because MiniFCU was obviously such a huge success, they were talking about moving on to mini EFIS and mini ECAM. I wonder if they'll be quite as successful because this really is the heart, and this is, you know, minute by minute you're using this a lot. But like during the setup process, not having the ability to change the range and the plan mode very easily without scrolling around, I find that frustrating at that point. And even setting the altimeter is kind of nice. This is pretty much, this is the need to have. This is a nice to have. This is the need to have. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't have enough space on my desk for anything like that expansive anyways, but maybe we'll need to do it. Anyways, let's see here. We're just about ready to set up for our arrival into LaGuardia here. Hopefully that controller stays online for a little bit longer. I'm just going to do something I haven't done for a little while. That is going to cross-post to my YouTube community here. Just because I have not for a long time. Just trying to get a few more people watching because it really has been a little bit quiet today. I haven't gotten anybody talking to me today. None of you guys are watching or talking at all, which is a little bit disappointing. It's nice to get you guys chatting about various stuff. You guys often bring up interesting questions and have interesting things that you want to find out about. So I do like to get it out there, and I do like to also simulate some emergencies. But with you guys being so quiet today, with so little going on, I really don't think I'm going to be doing too much here. Maybe we'll do one just for the interest. And hopefully it's nothing too crazy, but if we insert a random failure, it almost always ends up being nothing. So let's do that. And we do get a random failure. We don't even get a caution for this. Oh, look at that. We've got FWS, FWC2 fault. All right. Let's see. Just make sure the airplane's still flying. We're still in nav, cruise, autopilot 1. All right. ECAM actions. So flight warning system, flight warning computer 2 fault. Clear FWS. Clear FWS. All right. And status. All right. Stop ECAM. First of all, we'll just consider this. So can we do a reset? And I do have a QRH here that may have resets. Can we do a reset? Can we do an engine? We don't need to do an engine relight. We got no outstanding checklist to do. There's no OEBs or anything. So I'm just going to consult my QRH. And there is actually a section in the QRH for resets, for system resets that are allowed for the flight crew to perform without advice for maintenance while they're in flight, especially. So I know there are some FWC resets. There's auto flight brakes, comms. It's mostly minor systems, but it's super important that if it's not here, you don't reset it. And the AirAsia crash I talked about with the last one. FWC 1 or 2 fault. There is actually a reset for FWC 1-2 fault. So on the ground, no, in flight, pull, then push the circuit breaker of the affected FWC. All right, and for circuit breaker reset, per the preamble to the system reset table, it is 3 seconds for a normal cockpit control, 5 seconds for a circuit breaker. So I have it here, and it's okayed by Airbus. This is approved by Airbus. It's in their list of acceptable system resets in flight. For FWC2, pull then push the circuit breaker, Quebec 7 on 121 VU. Quebec 7. All right, so we're going to do that, see if that resets it here. So Quebec 7. So first of all, which row is Quebec? Quebec is this row here. Quebec 7, it should say FWC2 supply. Quebec 7, FWC2 supply. Do that. Start the timer for 5 seconds. Alright, that's 5 seconds. You can turn around and you can push it back in. And that's literally all it said. Pull out and push in the affected circuit breaker, and that's it. That's your one chance to get the system back. Looking at this here, I know that the FWC2 in-op is gone. What we'll do is we'll read the status page for now. So we got center tank fuel unusable. That's from before. Cat 3 single only. Cat 3 dual is in-op. Center tank pumps are not. Pack 2 is in-op. So we do have Pack 2 on MEL. The center tank pumps are off. Cat 3 dual's lost. That might be because the FWC is still resetting. So no Cat 3 duals for now anyways. Clear status. Clear status. And let's just hit recall and see if it's still there. And the only thing I have on recall is Air Pack 2 off. So it looks like at this point, the FWC2 reset. Oh, and there it is. It's back now. So the computer was rerunning its self-check, and it obviously failed the self-check. So there it is. It's back. FWC2 fault. So the system reset did nothing. So clear air, clear air, clear FWS, clear FWS. And again, status. So we also have FWC2 is in op. So the flight warning computer number 2 is in op. We still have 1. We always have redundancy in the Airbus. So much redundancy in the Airbus. Yeah, so at this point, there's 2 computers that are always calculating and processing warnings, and any of the fault lights that go on, basically almost anything that comes up on ECAM is calculated by an FWC at some point. So the FWC takes inputs from all the different systems, and if there's any faults detected, it then generates a warning, an ECAM message of some kind. So with FWC2 off, we've lost redundancy, reliability on the system. We have FWC1 is still functioning. It's still doing a fine job. It's still going to bring up any emergencies. But if we lose FWC1, then we're going to start to have some serious situations. All right. I hear my dog barking at me to go outside, so just give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to come right back, and then we're going to start setting up for this arrival into LaGuardia. All right, so we do have LaGuardia Tower online right now. We are inbound. There's a bunch of inbounds. LaGuardia's a little bit busy today because they are one of the few towers online, which is great. It's fine. So let's go with LaGuardia ATIS. Info Sierra 1451 Zulu 230 at 7, 10 miles, field 4000 view 9000 2988. ILS runway 22 approach in use, departing runway 31. No TAMs, operate transponder mode C on all taxiways and runways. Advise you have Sierra. So it is ILS 22 2988 on the meter. So we can set that right now. It's almost the same as it was in Tampa. Alright, and I'll set it on the info side as well, 2988, perfect. Okay, so that's all set up, so let's start thinking about landing in LaGuardia. We've got 16:52, we've basically got an hour to go. So let's start setting up for the arrival. There's no sense in being rushed at the last minute. I don't think it's going to change. The winds seem pretty steady out of the south, so let's go ahead and plan on that. So ILS to runway 22 in LaGuardia. It looks like an absolutely beautiful day right now. So we're going to go LaGuardia, runway 22, dry. We'll just apply the METAR, which gives us everything we already know. 2982, 18 degrees. Let's see here, landing weight. That's the one thing we do need to calculate. Uh-oh, okay. For a second I thought I'd lost my track of air there. Let's see here, landing weight. Easiest thing is fuel prediction page. 55.9, which is basically 56, and we're expected to land with 5 tons, so we're expected to land at 61. So let's do just a little bit above that, just to hedge our bets a little bit. Let's go 61, 61.2. Low auto brake, idle reverse. I'm going to say medium auto brake probably for this one today. And I'm not seeing... There it is, dry runway. Alright, 4711 feet. Factor distance a little higher at about 5,400 and change on a 7,000 foot runway. That's reasonable. That's medium auto brake. That's no reverse. Flap full, auto thrust on, manual landing. So if we have any other failures, we can deal with that. Also, so if we have any other failures, we can deal with them. And if we can use any reverse, then it'll just reduce our distance even more. So we're looking at 4,200. So it's not bad. Or 4,700. Definitely not bad. Definitely within reason. Not a whole lot of extra room to spare in LaGuardia, but we should be able to do this here. Where are we here? Just passing Raleigh-Durham right now. Okay. The other thing I want to find out before we get going here is just a gate. I just want to have an idea of where we're going to park in LaGuardia. So let's search for flights from Tampa to LaGuardia. All right, Tampa to LaGuardia. There is a JetBlue flight that is en route right now, 12:48. Close enough. Where is he going to park in LaGuardia? He left Alpha 11. He's going to gate 43 in LaGuardia. So that's what we're going to plan on, is gate 43 for arrival. Hopefully this is all accurately numbered. And let's start pulling up some charts here. Start thinking about this stuff ahead of time here, so we're not rushing at the last minute. And that's one of the biggest things in aviation, is try your best to be planned out as many possibilities as you can during these low periods. Starting to get a little turbulence here. So right now it is a low workload period. There's a very low risk. We're level in cruise with the autopilot on. It's the perfect time to plan all sorts of contingencies you might need to worry about. So we do have the Corey 4. We're planning the ILS to runway 22. Whoa. What you doing to me here? Now we're starting to get into this turbulence here. I don't think it's actually turbulence. I think it's Microsoft not knowing what's going on. But it might be worth going to different altitude then, if this is going to continue. And we're going to gate 49, so let's just have a look at the parking chart here. 43, sorry, 43. So on the west side of Concourse B, 43. Perfect. tail height of 50 feet. We can taxi an A320 under those under those bridges if we need to. All right, but yeah. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go through and make sure everything is in there properly. So we've calculated our landing distance. We're happy with that. The status of the aircraft. We are aware of the functioning FWC. We should send a message to maintenance when we get a chance here. Other than that, everything else is as expected. We're limited to Cat 3 dual. It's VMC. We're just going to be doing a Cat 1 ILS. They don't have Cat 3 into LaGuardia anyways. Yeah, so let's go through the box, make sure that everything is set up correctly here. So we're going to go in plan mode. We're going to get constraints on there. We're going to do a slightly lower. Let's do this in such a way that we can hopefully see all of what we're trying to do here. There we go. All right, so we are joining at PXT, which is Patuxent. And we're going to be there soon, I think. We're just going to be starting this arrival before too long. There it is, PXT. Alright, first of all, any interesting notes here? Routes, altitude, maintain sound altitude to clear to descend via the Cordy 4, apply with altitude restrictions as published. Turbojets only, last assigned altitude to clear to descend, then comply with altitude restrictions. AGAR transition, Washington only. Alright, fine. So Patuxent, Garrod. Ridgey above 270, yep. Smyrna above 240. Skippy above 190. Bessie above 17,000, Edger, and then Davies above 13,000, Holy, Brand above 11, Corey at 10, Brand 11 plus, Corey 10. After Corey, we go Robbinsville, Tykes, Minx, Renew, Apple, Proud. Expect radar vector to the final approach course after Proud. And I think we'll end up getting vectored around, or we'll self-vector for a left downwind to runway 22. Hopefully the performance will stay with us today while we fly past New York, which is renowned for having some pretty intense scenery. Let's see here. Yeah, so that's all in the box. The approach itself is the ILS to runway 22 in LaGuardia, so let's just check the waypoints on this. So after Proud, it should be a, oops, wrong way. Should be a manual leg, and then it's got it as direct, which is not what I want to do. Oh, it's got a transition, that's why. I don't want to do that. I guess I can leave it in there and just manually fly it. It doesn't even have a course reversal depicted on here. No, it's not a transition. No, it's not a transition. So, yeah, no, it doesn't have an approach via in there. I kind of want to insert a discon after Proud. Let's see here. What I could probably do is I could just insert something random in there above Yeoman. And what it'll do is it'll create a discon after. Yeah. Then I can probably clear out Triple Yankee and it'll keep the discon. That's what I want. So Proud, discon, and then vector, self-vector around to Yeoman Greco. I like that better. That's more realistic. It's not going to do something weird and unexpected there. So Yeoman, Greco, Yeoman's above 3,000 and Greco's at 1,900. That's the FAF, LaGuardia, and then the missed approach is 300 feet outbound on 225 to the Proud intersection. So 300 feet outbound 225 to Proud intersection, hold left at 3,000 feet. Very good. All right, perfect. RadNav 110.5 for IURD, and final approach course 225. That's within 1 degree. It's very reasonable. Prog page. Let's put in LGA is on the field, so we could just put in LGA as a reference point. We got 273 miles to LGA. Predicted GPS is yes, 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 though we shouldn't need it, but we will be self-factoring, so it will actually be helpful to have some GPS, though it would also be VMC at the time we're arriving. Descent, we could probably pick up the cost index for the descent, maybe. Let's do 0.78/300 for the descent. Let's get a little bit more, a little faster in the descent here. And that delayed the start of our descent, which is fine. Approach. All right, let me go back again to this. So I've got, just get the LaGuardia ATIS up here one more time here. So 2988, it's 220 at 8, 20 degrees. So 29.88, it's actually not a bad day down in New York. It's 20 degrees, and it's 220 at 8, so it's pretty much down the pipe at this juncture. 220 at 8, looking good. ILSDA down here at the bottom, 212. 212 baro. And config full for landing, absolutely. And we're going to make the acceleration altitudes, just the missed approach level off altitude of 3,000. Not 30,000, 3,000. Thank you. Good, perf's all in the box. Fuel prediction, again, we're showing 1.9 extra for LaGuardia. We got quite a little bit extra. We're doing good. Secondary flight plan, so what I'm going to do, it's actually keeping up, but I'm going to recopy it now with the ILS-22. And I don't know what else to throw in there right now. Maybe 31. If we do have to switch to 31, it'd be a sudden change. The winds are pretty well favoring. They're pretty well favoring 22. So I don't think it's going to happen. But if anything, it's one of those ones that you actually want to be really totally ready for. So the RNAV X-ray is the same basically as the park visual. So we're going to do the RNAV X-ray to 31 if this is just for the secondary. We could leave it on the same star, the Core 4 PXT transition, and then that gets us, yeah, that gets us what we need. So after Brand, Corey, Robbinsville, Tykes, Minx, Renew, Apple, Proud, then we get Pachu, Shea, Gakar. I think I need to zoom in on this one more time here. Shoot, wrong knob. And constraints. So it's not showing us the constraints for the secondary, but it is showing us Pachu 2800, Shea 2550, 2347 at Gakar, and actually after Shea is when the whole thing's hard coded with the altitudes. Daryl 1886, Keith 1850, Dick Trick 1714, and then LaGuardia. So yeah, so just approach 421, 2000, and climbing right turn direct gecko. Right turn, climbing right turn direct gecko to hold, but you have to do the whole thing first. Okay, good. I don't think we're going to be doing that. I honestly don't, but just sort of putting it in there as like just sort of a one-off, just in case. Because the one thing is, if we do switch to 31, it's going to suddenly be a lot shorter route, which makes it a lot more challenging to kind of get it done. We'd have to be kind of getting ready in a real hurry. So just even by doing that, we've kind of mitigated a big risk there. If it does for some weird reason, I don't really think it's going to happen, but at least we're ready for it. Okay, so let's go back into ARC mode just so I can see where we are, what we're doing. But we are just about ready to start the star, and I think we've checked everything over here. So you have control.
I have control.
Are you ready for the approach briefing?
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. All right, so technical status of the aircraft. We have had a minor malfunction with the FWC-2. It's restricted our operations to Cat 3 single only. It's VMC, and there are no Cat 3s in LaGuardia anyway, so that should not impact our operation. None of the rest of the status impacts our operation. Oh, you know what I did check was NOTAMs. That's what I did not check. So let's go back to the SimBrief panel. Let's pull open the NOTAMs for LaGuardia, and let's just see what's going on in LaGuardia today. Because you like to say the word LaGuardia. You gotta talk like a New Yorker. Alright, LaGuardia 7. Quebec's migratory birds. Some non-standard signs and lighting. Airport closed to fixed wings every day between midnight and 6 a.m. Let's see here. SIDS do not impact us. Approaches. ILS-22. Procedure NA except for radio altimeter tolerant. The 320 is. Assuming it's been fixed by your company. And that's it. There's actually really very few. Proud 1 star not applicable. We're not doing the Proud 1. We're doing the... what are we doing? We're doing the Corey 4, so it's good. Nothing. Alright, so no NOTAMs impacting our arrival. Today's arrival is the Corey 4 arrival, as stated. Routing constraints all as published. We're just about to start the star. Everything is in the box. We're going to keep flying all the way down. The bottom altitude for the star published is 10,000 feet at Corey. After that, descent is going to be at our discretion unless we get a New York controller online. Nobody yet. Fingers crossed. Yeah. Transition. So once we get past Proud, we're going to basically turn right 30 degrees and set ourselves up for a left downwind. For an ILS to runway 22 in New York LaGuardia, plate 11-5, IURD 115224 is all auto-tuned in the box. Greco 1900, ILSDA of 212, that's been set. Missed approach is as published, as divided by ATC. Top altitude is 3,000 feet. 2,900 feet is the MSA west of the field over downtown Manhattan. We need 3,000 basically to clear the tallest buildings. Freedom Tower, I believe, is the tallest building now in Manhattan. And yeah. RVR 1800 a half mile. It's going to be a beautiful day. Landing on runway 22 in LaGuardia. So 7,001 feet available. The full length is available with no displays threshold. We need 5,400 feet to stop, which means we basically need to probably be touched down by about uniform. And that's with a factored landing distance. We'll even say the intersection because the landing distance usually includes a 700-foot 700-foot air distance. So if we take 5,400, yeah, we can probably do almost 3,000. So as long as we have touched down by the intersection, that'll be our touchdown point limit. So as long as we touch down by the intersection of 2 runways, we should have more than sufficient room to stop this aircraft and turn off. It'll be a left turn off the runway. We're taxiing to gate 43, which is basically right here. So we'll need lane 6 or 7 to get into gate 43. And yeah, I can't think of too much else off the top of my head. It's going to be a managed approach to a manual landing with a coupled low glide slope approach. So once we're clear for the approach, on the approach mode, second autopilot. Not expecting to need anti-ice for this arrival. It'll be auto brake medium for landing, full reverse, and config full. Once we're decelerating nicely, we'll modulate the reverse and the brakes to spend minimum time on a runway. That is all I can think of at this time. Any threats? So threats, LaGuardia is a busy airport, and it is intersecting departure operations. Right now we do have a LaGuardia tower on, which will help manage that risk by monitoring the operations on the ground. But we'll, if they happen to go offline as well, we'll be ready with Unicom. So let me get the tower ready here. So 18.7 is LaGuardia Tower. So I'm just going to get them in the backup because if we need, once we kind of get going here on final, things are going to happen pretty quickly. But we'll talk to them as soon as we're turning final. If they disappear, we'll make the appropriate broadcasts on Unicom, coordinate with other pilots. That's probably the biggest risk factor here in LaGuardia, is that it is actually quite popular today because the tower's been online. There's quite a bit of traffic in and out. It is a short runway. We've mitigated that risk with medium auto brake, full reverse, and config full is the plan. And we have done the landing distance calculation. The landing distance is sufficient. We set ourselves a hard touchdown point limit. Hotspots on the taxi in, mostly at the intersection of 2 runways here. My plan is to taxi, taxi is instructed, but I'm expecting to go probably Bravo Alpha around to the gate, so that will probably mitigate a lot of that risk by taxiing on Alpha and being far away from that runway. Other risks, fuel, we've got a fair bit left, not that page, we do have almost an hour of extra fuel, so if we have to go around for any reason, we can come back and try another approach without worrying too much about the diversion. Yeah, like I said, we can hang out for about an hour before we really have to worry about the diversion. Other than that, not too much that I can think of. We do have We do have a bridge. If we're instructed to taxi under the bridge, we are able to clear it. The tail height on this aircraft is 36 feet, 39 feet. It's definitely less than 50 feet anyway, so we can definitely taxi under the bridges here in LaGuardia. And yeah, I can't think of too much else really as a risk factor. Winds are down the pipe, weather's beautiful, aircraft's mostly functional. Everything important in the airplane functions. Any questions?
No questions.
I have control.
You have control.
All right, well, hopefully this tower controller is going to stick around long enough. This is really kind of the crux of the question now, is how long is this tower controller going to stick around for? Is it going to be long enough for us to get on the ground? Because he's already been online for 2 hours. So he's sort of 2.5 at this point. Kind of reaching that point where you're thinking about pulling the plug. And we are about a half an hour from touchdown here. What are we showing here? Let's see here. We're showing touchdown at 16:51, so just a little over 30 minutes. So it's going to be about the 3-hour mark. He might be here. It won't surprise me either way. It won't surprise me if the controller's still there. It won't surprise me if they're gone. 2 to 3 hours seems to be kind of the natural control period in the VATSIM network. And even I'll admit that that's usually 2 hours is basically my minimum. Unless if I can't stay online for 2 hours, I probably won't log in. The exception I usually make to that is if there's already other controllers around, so that my coming and going will not make a big impact on other people. That's usually when I make the exception to that rule. But my general rule personally is about 2 hours, especially if I'm just kind of working solo. It's not so bad when there's other controllers around, because then they kind of absorb the shock because they've already lured people in. And I'm not trying to steal anybody else's traffic, but just if they've already lured people in, you know, the first hour of your time online is usually spent just waiting around for people to start seeing you there and start logging in and dealing with you. But the other thing is too is that if I feel like I have to go, there's again other people picking up the slack. They don't know, there's not as much notice that I'm coming and going, which is great. And I do love that. I love just slipping in and out of positions with pilots not even being aware that controllers logging on and off or changing controllers. Just all of a sudden you're talking to a controller, and all of a sudden the next time you talk to them, the voice is completely different. I love doing that. Love just kind of sliding right past there. And Hayden UK, good morning. Just lurking on my lurking in my chat channel. Well, at least you're lurking. It's been a little bit quiet today. I haven't seen too many people chatting at all. So if you have anything you want to talk about, any questions you want to ask, we're about 15-20 minutes here from our top of descent into New York. It's not been a particularly exciting flight. We thought we were going to have ATC in Jacksonville. That guy logged off. We got an 8th controller in New York. I wouldn't be surprised if he logs off as well. Unfortunately, it'd be unfortunate, but it's not going to surprise me at all. I believe that's Washington D.C. up there. Because this, I'm pretty sure we're flying up Chesapeake Bay here. That's the Delaware River, I believe. So this is Chesapeake Bay. Washington, D.C., I think that's the Potomac there. So I think Washington's up here somewhere. Or did we already pass it? No, I don't think we passed it. No, I think it's further up here. I think Baltimore's up here. I think Washington's down there. I'm at work, so can't interact much but listening. Well, I appreciate you listening anyways. I'm sorry if sorry it's not been a very exciting stream. I'm trying to kind of marshal some interest, and I am doing my best to try and get like a few kind of either weekend or evening streams, but weekends and evenings are precious time. When the rest of the family is home, you know, when you're on the road a lot, the times when you are home and your family's home, you really try to take advantage of that as much as you can. So sitting down here streaming for 3 hours during kind of those peak times, it's something that I'm not going to probably do too much. And of course, it's been busy the last few weekends. You know, last weekend was Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving to everybody. We kind of had a very nice meal. Celebrated my father's birthday. It was a big milestone for him, so we kind of had a bit of a big to do for it. But it was kind of nice. It's just nice to kind of get together with family and see family and talk to them and everything. And then this weekend actually, because the one side of my family had Thanksgiving last weekend, the other side of my family felt a little bit shafted. So now this weekend, the other half of my family wants to have Thanksgiving dinner. So not that that's a bad thing, but now it's kind of interesting. I was not planning on having a second Thanksgiving dinner. I was planning on sleeping mostly after my red eye on on Saturday, and now I guess I've got to plan on doing something else in that case. All right, let's do one more fuel check before we get going here. So we just, what do we got? We got Ridgie in 1 minute here. So let's do one more fuel check on the way, but we basically checked our fuel through the approach briefing. We really don't have to, but we can check to see how the time is working, how the approach briefing is working here. You know, and the other thing I'm going to do here, I think, and the only reason I'm going to do this is because I'm afraid of this tower controller leaving, is I'm going to start bumping up this cost index. What if I put 100 on here? That certainly puts the speed wave up there. We were certainly flying at an economy cruise speed at cost index 8. I'm going to get that guy. Yeah, just because I don't want to touch the ground and this guy logs off just as we're turning final calling him, because I can see that happening now. Paranoid about that happening now. So yeah, I'm gonna bump up the cost index at this point. It should make too much of a difference to our bottom line because we only have 30 minutes of flying left and most of it is idle power anyways. So we still have 1.9 extra fuel, 56 minutes. I think it made a difference of about 100 kilos, if even that, flying at full power here. All right. So here comes Ridgie. If I can find it in my, let's see here. So Ridgie 1620, we're only 4 minutes behind this. So we were 6 minutes originally, so we've been making back time already, which is great. And we've got 5.6 in the tank, so we're also making fuel. So we're getting there faster, we're burning less gas. Yeah, the SimBrief plan is a little bit pessimistic perhaps, but that's okay. All right, so now this shows a touchdown time of 16:51. We're getting there. We're getting there. Let's see here. Where is this Washington up here? This might even be Washington. No, this is the Delaware. No, that's Philly up there. We've already passed. Like, this is Washington off there at Baltimore. Somewhere along here. Because I'm pretty sure this is the Delaware River because it comes in here and it hooks to the right. And that's Philadelphia right there. That's Philly right there. I am 95% sure. Without looking at the map. And I mean, I could just pull up the map at any point in time and figure it out. I could even probably do, we could just do this. Let's see here. Airports. Wilmington, Philly. Yeah, Philly's right up there, straight ahead, just a little left of Bessie. So yeah, we are sailing up the Delaware River now on our way to New York. I'm going to reset my timer because it's not really relevant anymore. We've done our last fuel check. We're going to carry on. Anything else I can talk about? I'm just trying to think if there's anything else interesting that came up in the last little while topics. Nothing that I can think of off the top of my head came up recently. Haven't been flying as much as I want to on the sim anyway. It's just, again, I feel like the other thing is this time of year, I tend to get a bit of a nesting instinct going on this time of year where I try to get a lot of stuff done outside. Like, you know winter's coming, so like there's all sorts of jobs that you kind of you put off all summer long. It's not even a nesting, it's more like just procrastination leads to I have stuff that I have to do before like it really starts to snow. So you know, things like closing the pool was done a couple weeks ago, but things like just even taking in all the patio furniture, putting it in the shed so that it doesn't get snowed on and frozen and everything, draining the water barrel in the garden, cleaning up the garden itself, just a whole bunch of kind of outdoor tasks, which is taken away from just like my general afternoon, daytime flying time, which is not a terrible thing. I probably spend more time in Flight Simulator than I probably should, and if I look at my Steam total, it's going to be frankly shocking. After 3 years after the launch of Microsoft Flight Simulator is by far the most played game in my Steam library by a long shot. Let's see if I can go back to the front page of my library. I'm just curious. Steam is right now number one, listed at 4,200 hours, which is almost 4 times the next runner-up. And even like you go in the top 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the top fifth game in my library has less than 10% of the hours of the time I spent playing Microsoft Flight Simulator. Ironically, the number 3 game in my library is still, to this day, FSX Steam Edition. 700 something hours in there, but 4,200 hours spent in Microsoft Flight Simulator and counting. And counting. Speaking of Steam, though, I guess one thing we talk about is Steam does have going on right now their NextFest. So where developers... Did I miss my top of descent point? Ah, it was right there. There's decelerate right there. So let's go ahead and set 10,000 as the bottom altitude on this star. Oops, too far. Ah, my kingdom for a MiniFCU. 10,000 feet is set, and let's go ahead and do thrust idle descent all blue. Hopefully she should be able to catch the path. We only missed it by a little bit here, so more drag. Well, I'll give it a little while to see how it works out. There's Philadelphia down there. The airport is right. Pretty sure that's the airport right there on the south side of town. I've been there quite a few times. Yeah. So Steam is having their NextFest right now. So games that are in development are kind of being pushed out there for people to see. The one that I saw that really kind of garnered my interest. Why is it slowing to 250? Don't slow to 250. Why are you slowing to 250? I wanted 300 knots in the descent. I think maybe when I reset the cost index, it reset the descent profile. So, anywho, 300 knots it is. Yeah, so they're having their NextFest right now. The one game that really kind of caught my eye, and they just dropped the trailer for it like 2 weeks ago and said download the demo during NextFest. So you can download the demo right now, and it's kind of I picked it up yesterday, downloaded it yesterday, and started playing it. It's actually kind of fun. It's a game from Paradox, which is the same company that brought you City Skylines, anyways. And they have a new game being developed called Foundry, and if I could describe it in just a handful of words, imagine Satisfactory meets Factorio meets Minecraft. It's a factory building game, much along the lines of kind of a Factorio or even a Satisfactory. The difference being that it kind of takes place in a completely destructible voxel universe, made up of like a square grid, so it has a lot of kind of like a visual style of Minecraft, a little bit more detailed, definitely more detailed, a higher resolution, higher textures than Minecraft, but at the same time it looks a lot like Minecraft, just in the way like you're kind of stuck in this terrain, and there are hills that are kind of blocky, like terraced kind of hills like Minecraft. It's a higher resolution, but the game kind of happens on a square grid. So unlike Satisfactory, it happens in 3 dimensions, but unlike Satisfactory, it happens on a square grid. So that kind of makes it a little bit more like Factorio, where everything is just square. It's either left or right, or forward or backwards. Nevertheless, I started playing it, and it's definitely an interesting little game. It's definitely got me curious. I'm curious to see how it plays out. It's just a demo right now. It's not the full game. They haven't even released the full game yet, so it's just a demo that's released for the next 2 weeks. You can download the demo for free, and it is kind of the full game, albeit an early access version that is also what am I trying to say here? It's an early access version. And it's also a large portion of the tech tree is locked, so you can sort of make it through the basic tiers of the game. The first bunch of tiers, you can start building conveyor belts and basic assembling machines, and start linking stuff together, and start mining resources and things like that. But the real difference that kind of separates it from Factorio and Satisfactory is that it's a completely destructible voxel landscape, so you can drill away, and that's one of the things that's always frustrated me a little bit about Satisfactory. And I do love Satisfactory. It's a beautiful, beautiful world. The Coffee Stain Studios, the developers there, have put an absolutely phenomenal amount of work into Satisfactory, and the world that they've created is absolutely gorgeous. It really, truly is. It's a beautiful, beautiful world. But just sometimes you just want to be able to dig down or level the terrain a little bit more. You want to build a factory, and you end up, because you're trying to have a level floor, you end up with the factory floor ends up being so high because on the one side of the hill you can't cut the hill down at all. So if you want to be level, you have to go the other way. That's the only part that frustrates me about Satisfactory. Otherwise, Satisfactory is a fantastic, wonderful game. The 3D graphics are just phenomenal. The complete full open world. You can build anywhere. There's no fixed grid. You can build a grid of a factory anywhere you want in any orientation you want. Fantastic. But the one thing that I do kind of just want to be able to do in that game is just destroy stuff sometimes. Just level the land a little bit, cut into the hill, build an underground cave. That's the one part that I don't despise, I don't hate, but that's the one thing that I wish you could do in Satisfactory that you can't do, and it disappoints me a little bit. It's not a terrible thing, and it's the one drawback to the game. So yeah, so if you get a chance, check it out. It's called Foundry. It's from Paradox, and it's just a demo right now. It's a free demo that's available, I think, for the next 2 weeks, a week or 2 weeks, and you can try it out. You can play the game as long as you like, and see what it's about. See if it's something you might be interested in. Come on, let me press it.
2988 set passing 16,400.
There you go. He did it anyways, without me having to say anything.
Now.
Thank you. Are we going to make Corey at 10,000? I don't think we're going to make Corey at 10,000 anymore. Alright, let's get some speed brakes going. Let's accelerate a little more. We can accelerate to 320 for the time being. But yeah, I've tried it out. I thought it was a pretty good game. Definitely, if you're into that kind of factory building genre at all, it's definitely a game that might interest you. It's a little bit basic right now. And because it's a demo, you can't get to a large portion of it, but it definitely, you can kind of see what the game's going to be about. You can get an idea behind what the game's trying to do from the demo. So if you're interested in factory games, try it out right now. It's out on Steam. Hopefully by the time this video gets published on YouTube, it'll still be open, but it won't be for much longer. Give it a try. I'm enjoying it. I think if you're into that factory building genre at all, and I absolutely do love that genre. I love logistics. And I love any game that kind of simulates logistics. So all the factory games, I've always enjoyed them. Well, there's the end of my coffee, but it's okay. We're almost there. I can see LaGuardia on the map. Have you played BattleBit Remastered? I have not. I haven't even heard of BattleBit Remastered. There's Speed Alt-Star. Let's get the speed back now. No need to put thrust on this because we got to slow down to 250 knots anyways to descend a little further. And I have a feeling that this is exactly what you'd get. You'd get cross Corey at 10,000 at 250 knots from the New York center controllers, or the New York approach controllers. Well, the center controllers would give you that, and then they'd hand you off to the approach controllers at this point. So what if we were 50 miles away? We don't have to necessarily start down right now. We'll probably sail along at 10,000 for a couple of minutes here. Hopefully we still have a controller. I keep on nervously checking my V-pilot because I'm just waiting for him to leave. Hoping he doesn't. Won't be surprised if he does. There's Alt. Melee mindless Counter-Strike type fun. I'm not big into the Counter-Strike type games. That's just not me. I've never been a huge. Oh, I guess I need to close that speed brake. Thank you for flashing at me, Airbus. Yeah, the one exception that I do have to that is Deep Rock Galactic. Just there's something about it. It's not so much the competition. It's almost more about the logistics of trying to sort of solve these things. Yes, you do have enemies you have to shoot at, but it's also co-op as well. I mean, I used to play Fortnite every once in a while just for fun, and I've seen the game. I know what it's about. I liked it. Just never found it that compelling, though. I got how it kind of could be addictive, though, to people who like that style of game. It was definitely you're always kind of like, oh, I can do a little bit better next time. I can do a little bit better next time. I see the addictive nature of that game. I see how it's going to play out. BattleBit Remastered. Yeah, I'm not big into the melee free-for-all fight type of games most of the time. I'm more into the lower key simulation type games. Like I said, I'm still putting together my computer in Turing complete because that's the kind of thing I like. I like logic. I like trying to work things out, prove that you can do things, build things. I love City Skylines. I think that's a great game. I'm looking forward to City Skylines 2. Not that I think I'm going to probably be able to play it because my computer won't be able to handle the graphics that are on it. The requirements for it are quite steep. but that's okay. I'm not. I've come to deal with that when I have a new. When I get a new graphics card, then probably City Skylines will probably drop into my basket again. For now, not so much. We're going to maintain to 10,000 feet for just a little bit longer here till we get about 30 miles back from LaGuardia, and then we'll start down. That'll set us up nicely into a left downwind. But we'll just keep the altitude for now. Not sure what they... Honestly, I don't think I've ever really arrived in New York from this direction, so I don't know what kind of the normal descents and everything would be. So I'm just sort of making up as I go along, hoping that there's not too much traffic on Unicom. Look over at my VATSIM just to see what's going on. There is a American... Oh, no, he's cruising along. There's one guy on the ground in LaGuardia. There's not too many arrivals now. There's one guy on the ground in LaGuardia. There's one guy departing JFK as well coming this way, so just keep an eye out for him. But we're just, yeah, the traffic's actually kind of petered out a little bit in the LaGuardia area right now. It's okay. Approach checklist.
Borrow ref.
2988 inches set.
2988 set. Seatbelts.
On.
Minimum.
212 feet set.
Auto brake.
Medium. Medium armed.
Engine mode selector.
Normal.
Approach checklist completed.
Perfect. All right, coming over the New York area. Beautiful day. Clear skies. Nice day to be flying.
Checked. Checked.
You don't need to listen to any of that stuff I'm saying. Okay. That's about 30 miles from LaGuardia. We are going to have to go past it as well, so we're not in a big rush to get down. But let's go ahead and set 3,000. That'll be the MSA. 3,000 feet is set. And let's just do... Let's start with VS minus 1,000 and see where that's going to put the level off the bottom of descent here. And the other thing I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to take it off screen capture now. Now it's back into game mode. Hopefully this will keep the performance of my capture. It seems to be working better now. I thought it worked better on the departure, but we'll see how it goes here. I put the TCAS on below as we pass. Oh, Apple's already done that for me. Excellent. Thank you, sir. But please, when you do touch switches in the flight deck, verbalize it. Please and thank you. Might do 1,500 feet per minute down even. And I think what we're going to do is at this point, we're just going to pull heading as we are, because that's going to set us up nicely for a left downwind to runway 22 in LaGuardia. Well, this will be the ultimate test, because this is one of the densest pieces of scenery in the world. New York City, it's historically always been a real strain on... I thought I pulled this. There we go. There's heading. It's always a real strain on every simulator, so yeah, we don't even need 1,500, 1,000. I'll probably do it. Level me off at 3,000 feet before we can get to Greco. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So yeah, if your frame rate can survive New York City, it'll survive anything. So we'll see how it goes. But this will be the ultimate test to see. So far, like just as I'm doing the look around here, that's frame rate's looking pretty good on the stream there. All right, there's the Verrazano Narrows. There's the good old Idlewild field there. Which this is one of the things that still surprises me to this day is the fact that the runways from the Idlewild field still survive in what is one of the densest, most expensive pieces of real estate in the world. Like you know, it's kind of on the outskirts of New York City, but nevertheless, it's not that far. I think it's still within the city limits technically. The fact that this property remains undeveloped, I think it's a park. But the fact that you can still see, after all these years, you can still see the runways at the Idlewild Field, which was New York's original airport, to me, it's just mind-blowing, because nothing in Manhattan seems to last. Everything's constantly being torn down and rebuilt. So the fact that those things are lasting is just crazy to me. There's the Empire State Building sticking out like a sore thumb because it's the only structure there. I don't have a high level of detail on it, for good reason. My sim can't handle the high levels of detail. Even as we're moving in towards New York now, the frame rate's starting to fall off. How's work been lately? Seems many short-haul pilots don't get enough time to relax and de-stress. Yeah, I would say that's a fair assessment. The shorter the routes, probably the more work you end up doing. I would say I'm kind of firmly almost into the medium haul now. It's not so much the it's not so much the length of the flights now. It's just more the timing of my days off that causes me stress and frustration now more than anything. The work itself is not bad, and I have to say, like, the company supports. Oh, there you go. Now Manhattan is really kind of coming into focus here. The company itself does a good job of providing like some pretty good rest periods for the most part. I won't say that it's never bad. I'm just going to do this because it's a fantastic view. Just a chance to see this here. Might even do the external screenshot just to kind of. Whoop. Okay, don't be so touchy there, but there you go. There you go. There's a great screenshot right there, I think. I think that'll be the one. All right, sorry. Yeah, I would say that I normally actually I'm fairly well rested at work. I've been able to really kind of up my game, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, but really trying to make sure like I'm really focused on being well rested every single time I come to work. When you're working the regionals, that is often not a possibility. Your turnarounds are so short. One thing I will say, and probably one of the best rule changes that occurred. One of the best rule changes that occurred with the update in the duty time regulations, which happened now 3 and years ago, I guess, 3 and something years ago, was that they made the rule that your rest period only starts when you get the key to your room in the hotel. So it's not like your rest period starts the moment you turn off the airplane. Oh, you're resting now. You're not flying, so therefore you're resting now. It takes you an hour and a half to get to the hotel. Oh, you were resting for that hour and a half. You can come back in 7 hours. It's key in hand at the hotel. So from the time the shuttle drops you off, and if the rooms are not ready, your rest period doesn't start until your room is ready. That was one of the biggest changes, and I think that was a fantastic change because it really puts the onus on the companies to make sure that the hotels are providing. There's 4,000 setting 3,000, providing rooms in a reasonable period of time after you arrive. That was a huge change because it used to be just like you're guaranteed like 10 hours off duty. If it takes you an hour to get to the airport, an hour to get away from the airport, then great. You only have 8 hours in the hotel room, and you have to eat something. Like you're taken away from that doesn't count. It's 10 hours in the hotel with your key in your hand. What you do with that 10 hours is your choice, how you want to use it. The company can't take away from that 10 hours and say, oh well, the shuttle ride counts as a rest period. The shuttle ride is not a rest period. I'm not sleeping. I'm not undressed. I'm not eating anything. That's not part of the rest period. That's the company's time. That was probably one of the best changes, especially for regional pilots. But as a medium haul pilot, I find it's not bad. Alt-star. I definitely, I didn't do it intern on LS. He did, but I did not. It's been better, but it's more for me. It's about which days I'm getting off. It's not that I don't have enough days off or that the time periods are bad. It's more about which days am I getting off, and it's the days when nobody else is around. And I'm off on weekdays. I'm off on weekdays, but I'm always working every weekend, and that it's okay at a point, but like it becomes frustrating after a while. But yeah, when I was certainly doing regional flying, it was hard to find enough time to rest, and you never felt like you were rested. You're always like, oh, I'm back at work already. I just left work. Like I swear, it felt like I only went home like 6 hours ago. How am I back at work already? Yeah, the regional pilot gig it's a harsh mistress. It is really a lot of work to try and get to be there on time every day. Oh, it can be brutal. I'm really kind of glad that I've done with regional flying. I still do some occasional regional routes, but for the most part, I'm tending to do longer haul. I did San Diego turns last weekend, and that was fantastic. Nice long flight. It's almost too long because I did it all in one day, there and back in one day. But it's nice to get that kind of credit in a day, so you can actually get some extra days off in a month. Regional flying, you'll never do a 10-hour credit day in a regional. All right, see the glide slope coming up. As soon as the glide slope crosses through, we'll start turning inbound here. I guess we should make some calls on Unicom. LaGuardia traffic, JetBlue 48 is on a left downwind, just about to turn base for runway 22 in LaGuardia. All right, so we got 210 knots. All right, let's go ahead and do a crosswind here. So that'll be about, yeah, that'll be 310, same as the runway. Come on. Oh, can't wait for my MiniFCU. All right. Let's go. Flaps 1.
Speed checked. Flaps 1.
All right, so there's direct yeoman radial in. Perfect. No change in status. Clear status. Maybe the tower will still be there. I haven't actually looked in the last 10 seconds, but let's see if he's still there. He's still there. I guess we're going to have tower for landing. Hooray! We got some ATC at least. All right, just trying to time this turn because it's going to be a pretty tight glide slope intercept here. Having the speed back a little bit will help. All right, let's do it. So 250 the heading for the intercept. Clear myself for the approach. So approach autopilot 2, and let's see, we got Lokestar, glide slope blue, Cat 3 single, autopilot 1 and 2. Looking good. Flaps 2.
Speed checked. Flaps 2.
All right, speed set to 180. There's flaps 2. That'll help with the descent because here comes the glide slope. Beautiful. Hopefully I can land this plane today. Go figure, the other day I did do a flight in the Fenix. Nice landing. Nailed it. Every time I'm doing it on stream, it always seems to just clunk into the ground. Glide slope star, missed approach altitude of 3,000 feet is set. Let's get the tower up. LaGuardia traffic, JetBlue 48, 10 miles final, runway 22 LaGuardia. LaGuardia tower, good morning, JetBlue 48 on the ILS 22.
JetBlue 48, LaGuardia tower, wind 220 at 8, runway 22, clear to land.
22 cleared to land, JetBlue 48, thank you. Alright, cleared to land, there's glide slope, Loke.
2,500.
Let's start managing the speed here.
Altimeter alive.
Gear down.
Gear down. Cabin crew be seated for landing.
She's a bit bumpy out here today. Not terrible, but a bit bumpy. Not a bad frame rate, and I think you guys are still getting an okay frame rate. It's a little jumpy at moments, especially when I look around quickly because then it has to suddenly reload a lot of scenery in a different direction, but I think it's very reasonable. It's definitely better than it was the other day. You can see the runway there, you can see the lead-in lights just leading us down there. Usually, the funny thing is you don't usually spot lead-in lights. They're usually the thing you spot from a long way away, because at night they usually don't have, or during the day, I mean, they don't have the lead-in lights on. So what you usually end up spotting from a long way away is the pappies. Usually you'll see the red, and you'll see the red lights or the white lights. That'll usually be the first kind of clue as to where the runway is. Flaps 3. Flaps 3.
Speed checked. Flaps 3.
Flaps full.
Speed checked. Flaps full.
Over VAP of 135. Okay, we got 135 there. She's kind of having a little trouble with it, but I'll just let her fly a little farther. Landing checklist. Landing checklist.
Ecam memo.
Landing, no blue.
Landing checklist complete.
Nice. The only thing I might need him for now is go around flaps. Alright, it's all me. Gotta get myself all ready here. Into position. It's actually not a bad frame rate, and I think you guys are seeing a decent frame rate as well. I got about 21 frames. It's not bad. Look at the amount of detail in the distance there. Like, for the amount of buildings and trees that are being currently painted by the sim, it's not bad performance at all. It's not ideal, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good, and it seems like OBS is keeping up with it pretty well as well. So maybe I may have solved my problem. Alright. I think it's time to disengage the autopilot. Stable.
Above.
Roger.
Minimum.
Continue.
$100, 50, 40, 30, 20, retard.
Come on, touchdown. Oh, jeez, you floated big time there.
5,
Spoilers.
Okay.
Reverse green, T7.
Roger.
17
JetBlue
minutes.
48, welcome to LaGuardia. Where are you parking today?
JetBlue 48, going to gate 43, please, sir.
JetBlue 48, exit left to enable.
There, that was actually not a bad landing, because it floated a little bit. One of the nicer ones I've done on stream, though.
48, left turn onto Bravo, continue taxi via Echo Alpha to parking.
Bravo Echo Alpha to the parking. Thank you very much. JetBlue 48, thanks for being on. Alright, just resetting some of the stuff for the after landing here. I think he's going to do all the rest of it. I think all I have to do is disarm the spoilers and the lights, right? Is that my after landing flow? Ground spoilers, exterior lights. That's all I have to do. Bravo Echo Alpha, I know where it is because I've been to this airport one time too many in my life, but just to give you guys an idea of where it is, basically Echo is this taxiway that's coming up here on the right. It's a short little taxiway to the right, and then Alpha is the parallel taxiway again. Okay, come on Navigraph, you can do it. Oh my god. That data is not stored in memory, that's for sure. Okay, that's not the right airport, but this is the right airport. So Bravo, Echo, Alpha, all the way around. And what I did not do, of course, what is going on over here? What is going on over here? Jet bridge is floating in the middle of nowhere. Let's go to Charlie 43. Well, it's not Charlie 43, it's just gate 43. Oh, for crying out loud, don't tell me that all my gates are from the old gate. From the old. There's 43. Let's see if this works. Oh, I hope this works. I haven't actually tested this one in a long time. Let's do Swissport then, if it's nobody else. Because you know what these are? These are probably the old bridges, and I think this is those are GSX bridges. So for the old terminal. Alright, well anyways. We'll do our best to find a parking spot that works. Got a little bit of a float. I pulled up really aggressively, but I find if I don't pull up really aggressively, this airplane just clunks right down, which is not what the real airplane does. I don't know what it is with Fenix in there. their landing performance, but it's definitely not good. Okay, I feel like these jetways are part of the default scenery, so hopefully we have a jetway in 43, because this pier was only recently completed, and they only, like, in the last, like, well, maybe about 2 years ago, they really kind of finished this and tore down the old piers, and it looks like these jet bridges are all on what was the old pier at LaGuardia. Now, it looks like the new pier, it may or may not be in the right place. I can't tell from here. Yeah, we'll see what we'll see when we get there. Flight simulation, sometimes you gotta do what you can. And it's an absolutely gorgeous airport. FeelThere has not really quite lived up to the beauty of the actual airport here. And I mean, they've kind of covered it a little bit, but it's still kind of cheaply done. It still feels very flat, as I've said before. Like, it feels like just a two-dimensional world here instead of a three-dimensional world. I don't know why there's only one taxi lane out here when there should be two, but anywho. AP's up and running, perfect. So 43 should be right here. It should be... Should be right here on the left. If I can get this to come up here, it should be pretty much the first one on the left here. So I think this is... That says 44. Hold on. 44. 43. It's just the next one. Okay, next one. Of course, I don't see a marshaller there at all. So whether or not it's accurate or not is a whole nother story. But we're going to try, and if we have to, we'll do the self-marshal. Alright, so that should be off. Alright, so approaching the gate, lights off. AP bleed on, anti-ice is off. Accumulator pressure's checked, and the weather radar is confirmed as being off. That says gate 43. I don't see a marshaller here. What are you going to do? And again, I'm trusting FeelThere. I don't have a lot of faith in FeelThere, though. I think most of their airports are built based on their tower controller simulation, and then they just simply import the models into MSFS because it's a cheap way for them to make an additional buck off the same models. But they are often not completely realistic. They get the kind of the flavor and the feel, but it's often not totally a realistic simulation. So we're going to be self-marshalling. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. All right, APU is available. Seatbelt signs off. Hopefully this jet bridge will come and join us. I hope. Please remember to submit my flight. Well, anyways, we definitely succeeded with the flight. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and I don't always have time to check everything before I go flying. All right, so those are off. So beacon off. That should be what summons the jet bridge. Reposition here at current gate. Well, that was a big jump. Hopefully that's not too bad. That's way too far back, though, honestly. I don't know who's doing these things here. It's way too far back. I'm sorry, but I'm going to go move myself back again here, because that's just way too far back for the jet bridge to be able to reach that. Ah, this looks like junk. It really does. Let's get rid of this. No jetways here. None of these jetways even move. Okay, fine. You know what? I give up on that right now. Let's just do the shutdown, and we'll get this. We'll end this stream because it's just not quite working out perfectly here. So be it. Sometimes it doesn't quite work the way it's supposed to. Clear out all of our flight data. He's got most of his stuff gone as well. Come on, move it. There we go. Let's just check and see how much heat I put into the brakes. Actually, not bad. A lot of reverse. Really not all that much on the brakes. Status, FWC2, that's expected. Let's see here. Data, aircraft status. Not data, aircraft status, data position monitor. 1.6, that's not bad. And fuel, one final check to make sure that everything's accurate. So 5,600 plus 47, that's 9.6, 10.3. That is good. Transponder standby, and after landing checklist.
Radar and predictive wind shear system.
See, I keep forgetting they have an after landing checklist. I do not have an after landing checklist. Off.
After landing checklist completed.
Parking checklist.
Parking brake or chocks.
Set.
Engines.
Off.
Wing lights.
Off.
Fuel pumps.
Off.
Parking checklist completed.
All right. Anyways, we're here. Such as it is, apparently we're not going to be able to offload anybody because this thing is wacky. I'm going to have to adjust my GSX. So I'm pretty sure it's GSX that does that. It's not a terrible model, and it's an impressive looking building. And I know that there are other designers out there that could do much better, and it's disappointing to me that nobody has, because this is gone. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. This went from being one of the worst airports in America in terms of how it looked, in terms of the interior. It was run down, it was depressing, it was dark, it was dingy, to being one of the most spectacular airports in America. It is an absolutely gorgeous facility. It's not completely done yet. I think they're still working on the final parts of that part, but this the main building here is done. It's an absolutely phenomenal facility. I don't think the hotel is done either, but the building itself is done. It's absolutely phenomenal. There are other scenery designers that could do a much nicer job than FeelThere. FeelTheirs is kind of adequate. It kind of does the job, and it kind of makes it look like somewhat like the real thing does somewhat. It's just not just default buildings, but it's got almost the same blockiness to default buildings. The textures here, it's all cheaply done. We just sort of go towards the edge. There's there's no interior. Like these bridges are transparent. You should be able to see right through them, see to the other side. Where the people, it'd be great if you could see people walking through them as you're contracting underneath them, because they're just glass. They're fully glass hallways. It's just transparent from one side to the other, and it's a beautiful, beautiful facility. This just does not do it justice, and I hope I will pay money for a better version. I will absolutely pay, and I pay money for this version. It's like, it's okay. It looks kind of like LaGuardia, but it's not great. I would pay more money for a better version, 100%. 100% I would. If some better, higher-end developer comes out with a good version of LaGuardia, and I don't know if anybody's working on it. I haven't even heard any words that anybody's working on it. I hope somebody does start working on it, but even if they don't, I hope they do, because this is passable, but it's really not good. It could be so much better, such higher quality. It is kind of mediocre quality at best. Better than default, but not by a lot, and not worth the money probably. I think FeelThere didn't charge that much for it. I think they only charged $8 or $9, but still, could do so much better. Anywho, we did finish our flight though, so we can go ahead and submit that even if the rest of this is not working. And I'm just going to turn down that exterior volume there because it's obnoxiously loud. It's probably drowning me out completely. So my flight has been submitted. Boom. Next flight, LaGuardia to Denver. So we're going to do that on our next stream. We're not doing that today, but off to Denver. That's a good long flight as well. 1,400 miles. That's a good 3 hours and something. So we're going to have to find a good weekday morning for that, I guess, because that's all I have. We'll find time for that. But in the meantime, I think that's about it for me for today. Let's just check out my dashboard here. I did get money for my last couple of months of going to work. $140 there. I did confirm my friend request, I'm pretty sure. If I go to the community page, I'm pretty sure I've confirmed all my friend requests that I've received. I don't see anything in the pending. Friend requests. Anything in the pending file here? No, nothing in the pending file. So everyone I've received a request for, I've approved. I should really actually reciprocate at some point too. Anywho, so that's our next flight that we're scheduled for. I did notice that I do have quite a bit of money now. Now that I'm making quite a bit of money as a JetBlue FO, I'm making what am I making? 60 something, 52 an hour. That's not bad. That's not bad. I was making like 27 at the last job, so that's not bad. Building up a bank account slowly, I actually have enough money to buy something. So why don't we do that? Not much, but the one thing that I can buy is I can buy some more training in leadership and teamwork, and this will get me an extra 0.25% experience points. It's not much, but again, it's just it increases the rate at which I gain experience points. So hopefully, I'll make it to senior first officer, get another pay raise, and start making more money sooner. I've got nothing else to really spend my money on. It's one of those things that the sooner you spend the money on it, it's an investment. The sooner you spend the money on it, the more return you get from it. So I think that's what I'm going to do. We're going to go ahead and go in here and go leadership and teamwork. Add that to the cart. And $2,500. I still have $244 left over afterwards. Purchase is complete. And I now have an extra 1%. No, an extra 0.5% of experience points on everyone. It's not much, but it slowly adds up. So bonus of a 0.5% of XP points on every flight. So I'm going to get a little bit more as I go through it. And yeah. Let's check this here. Nice score on this one, 99%. I did not do so well on the last one. I think the hard landing did not go well for that one. What did I lose? Pause not used. Oh, I opened up the pause menu. I opened up the menu in flight. Pause the sim. Lost 2 points for that. And then, yeah, it was all about the landing was the other things I lost the points for. So that's actually pretty good performance. So 99%. I got 99.25 experience points. So slowly building it up there. And yeah, we'll just keep on trucking away. It's a fun career. I'm still enjoying this. We got lots of good stuff coming up in the schedule. We've got Denver and back. We've got New Orleans and back. And then back down to Tampa. So we're going to revisit Tampa again. Yeah, but that's basically it for me today, guys. So unless you have anything else, thank you so much for watching. Yeah, it's been a little bit of a quiet sim. As always, the failure was benign. The ATC on the weekdays. I'm happy to have LaGuardia Tower, and thank you to, let's see, let's name this guy. Let's give him a shout out. This guy is Donald Decio. LaGuardia Tower. Thank you very much, Donald, for being online and providing some service. It wasn't much, but I appreciate it nevertheless. It just adds one more element of realism to what I'm hoping are some pretty realistic flights in the end. I do my best to try and make it as realistic as I can within the limitations of the sim, and sometimes things just don't work out the way they're supposed to. No jet bridge came over. The gates, the alignment of the gates here is really kind of meh. But anyways, we'll do the best we can. I'll try and fix these jet bridge issues before the next flight. And but otherwise, that's it for me, guys. So enjoy the rest of your week. Yeah, and stay safe and happy wherever you are out there. We'll see you guys all in the VATSIMs, guys, real soon. Keep in mind, Cross the Pond's coming up in about 3 weeks. So if you haven't already registered for the flight lottery, register for it now or register to control. And yeah, see you guys all next time. Have a great day.